Okay, you're on.
Okay, it's Tuesday, November 7th, around 7:05 PM. I'd like to open the business meeting for the Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals. Let me first say that the Board of Appeals will conduct this meeting in according to rules laid out in Chapters 40A of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Robert's Rules of Order, and its own particular set of rules entitled Rules of Procedure, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk. And another copy is available from the clerk at this meeting, and this meeting is being recorded for the purposes of taking minutes. First order of business is the monthly finance update. Patty, are you
Yep.
ready to take it away? All right.
Yes, all
Knock
I
yourself out.
basically have for you is the revolving account. It's under the new business page. So from last, we have the deposit for tonight's meeting and some revolving hours. And look at that second page for a change. Fees versus amount owed. And we spent 566, and we took in 3,400. That deposit is worth like a year of, you know.
So do we split that among
And the
all the
lower
members?
fees?
No.
Just so you guys know, that's the microphone.
Wishful thinking.
So you have no purchases
No.
this month for which you
No,
need a
but
motion,
after
correct?
next month, the 40B is, a butters list is huge, so we're gonna have to put some postage. We'll do that next month. Even though we just put postage.
Huger than this?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
So business and hearing minutes, so the business minutes are from the ones from July, and we had trouble getting those approved because we only had 3 people. So Jeff, Gina, and Dave. Gina sent me an email right here. Patty, I approved the business meeting minutes of July 2017. Thank you, Gina, because she couldn't be here, she's ill.
Is that just Dave and I?
Dave Twist and you.
Oh, Dave Twist.
Second
You want to
that.
second that motion? Fine, okay.
I'll second that motion to approve the minutes.
All right.
Oh, you have to make it, 'cause
Yeah, why don't
Jeff
you make
can't
it?
make it.
Make
Okay.
a
Thought
motion.
Gina made it.
To
Oh, okay, yeah, Gina made it,
Gina
how's
made it.
that?
She moved
Okay.
to approve it.
Thanks, G.
How's that?
So we're good?
Yeah,
Dave seconds, all those in
Okay.
favor?
got it.
Aye.
Aye.
And then the
Gina's an
hearing
aye.
minutes
Same thing?
for 34 West Main, so Jeff Moore, Dave Kapner, Sharon Freeman, and Paul Schillen were present.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all the minutes of September 5th.
Second.
That's business and hearing. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Patty? Okay.
Okay, is there any discussion on that? None? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Next is town report, you need to vote on that. I need to get that to the town administrator by the 15th of the month. So this is the fiscal 17, so it goes July of 16 to June of 17. July it still has, no, we kept, that's right. Sharon under associate and Dave. So, just ignore that second. I didn't switch over to fiscal when I came back from medical leave, I just kept going with the numbers. That's fine. So they got two numbers.
I have no idea what you're talking
I'd
about.
like to make a
The file
motion to say,
number.
okay,
Hang on.
fine.
Wait.
All right.
The file number is all,
Oh, okay.
so just that I could send that to Mike.
So the report includes all of your table here also, right?
Yes.
Of the actions the board has
Yes.
taken throughout the year, okay,
Yeah,
excellent. I will note we have a vacancy in the associate member's position, right? We've had that vacancy
Yeah.
for several years, right?
yeah.
So, not too bad. We got 7 members, 2 of which are associates, and 1 vacancy, so if anybody's listening and is interested, by all means, contact Patty. We have openings. You want a motion to approve your report?
Yes.
Our
please.
report, I guess it is. Anybody want to jump on that?
I will jump on that. I'd like to make a motion to approve the zoning board of appeals FY 17 town report and all the addendums to that.
Second?
Okay, Paul, second that. Is there any discussion on this? None? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Opposed, none?
next.
Approved.
okay. So this is the 2018 calendar.
Which is not part of the
Yeah.
report, correct?
No.
This was not intent.
No, no,
I just
no.
wanna make that clear.
I got a conflict on the 9th.
Okay. Let me just write that. So Dave can't make January 9th. And
So is-
I did the 9th because of New Year's, it's like right there, and I was too nervous.
Yeah, but most recover on the 1st.
Most.
You don't know this board very well.
The only other ones
People go back to work on the second. I
is
guess.
July.
Yeah, you moved that to the 10th,
the
right?
10th, Yep.
I would agree with that.
And then November 6th is an election. So we have to we're gonna do the 13th, or you can go to October 30th.
I would say go to the 13th.
Do the 13th, as opposed to the.
How many
30th.
weeks?
Well, if you
Either
go to
way,
the
it's 3
30th,
weeks
30th,
away.
If you go to the 30th, you get 4 weeks between
Yeah.
meetings. If you go
Right.
to the 13th, you only have 3.
Right.
And choose
Not
Plymouth.
that that makes that much of a difference, but if you're receiving an application and you're looking at deadlines, it's
I don't know about Labor Day week.
Oh, yeah. Do you wanna do the 30th?
September 4th. Right?
That's
I think the
true.
30th may be beneficial.
You guys have any?
It's actually only
Either
2
way.
weeks between.
That's a night before Halloween too,
Yeah.
so.
As long as it's
At
nice.
least it's not Halloween.
Yeah. All right, let's do the
You
30th
want
then?
you guys want? You can always change this
Okay.
later.
Yeah.
So let's tentatively say the 30th. You guys have any comment on any of that?
Nope.
No? All right, let's go with the 30th, Patty, and then we will not have a meeting in November. The next one will be December 4th.
Right.
Dave mentioned something about Labor Day. but-
Labor Day week,
Oh, and sorry. Missed that one. We usually do it and we're okay. We have for the past 2 years.
just bringing it up because I may not, I may be gone.
And so, I mean, we can. What do you think?
I'm generally around. I don't know about
Yeah,
anybody else.
we
Again,
haven't-
if it,
Well, the 11th would give you the 4th week.
Then that will be 3 weeks till the next one. Oh, that'll be like 3.
yeah, October
and-
2nd
I know.
will come up quick. Unless you guys don't think you're gonna be around, or you
No, I'm not sure, but just throw it
you
out there.
wanna leave
'cause
it, yeah.
Wanna leave
it
it
is
for
a big
now?
vac-
We
it's a
can
big
always change it.
vacation
I'll
week.
revisit
Yeah,
this
I agree.
again come June.
Okay.
Wanna see where we are in June or July. and-
Okay.
All right.
So no meetings at all in November?
Well, we moved this, what wouldn't be the
We're
6th.
gonna move it to October 30th.
We're moving it the week before, as opposed to the week after.
I think that'll be okay for folks. I guess we could add it in if we need to.
Well, we're gonna end up with 2 in October, 4 weeks apart,
Okay. Seems
Okay.
okay.
because we have another one on December 4th.
Sure. Okay,
So we're kinda trying to split the difference, but
sure.
Okay.
again, if that comes up and it's a problem, we can always change it.
Under correspondence, that was just the email from town administrator saying that the town report was due on the 15th. This is there's an email from the town clerk. It's new open meeting law. So that's just information for you to read. And then there is an update on the same from town council. Posting requirements, that's handled there on the website now, so I actually am posting the meetings instead of the town clerk. She gets an email when I get it on the website. And she has a record of when it was posted, because they have to be posted at least 48 hours.
Is there any conflicts with this room on other Tuesday evenings? We just moved some dates around. Is that ever an issue?
No, everybody pretty much knows I've had this room for as long as I've been.
But if we
the
change to
16th.
the other Thursday, like November, we can always do it in another room, I guess, if we had to. Like, I don't know if somebody has the 3rd Tuesday of the
No, I
month
don't
on
even
it
think they
ready.
booked them yet.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, regardless, we can always move.
I've already put these on there, I can,
Okay.
so, cause I do it now, so I can just do whichever one.
Well, don't forget to
wait.
change the November one.
I don't have to wait anymore. So you wanna just pull out maybe that's the reason why I didn't staple these, in case you wanna pull out that calendar and pull out this town council stuff to read later, and then, that's why I didn't. The other thing is just the training workshops. The one that was probably the good one, the special permits and variances,
Yep.
why they're holding in Martha's Vineyard, I have no idea.
Merrimack Valley, isn't it?
They want people to go.
I want people to go to
Sure.
Martha's Vineyard, but I don't know, there's that one, but that's, coming up soon. So just, if, you know, if you want to, you have to go online now and register,
That is a good one.
yeah.
I mean, informative.
So
But-
if you want to,
Which one?
Special permits and variances one.
so that's all I have for that. I checked with everybody on December 5th. They're all good for the 40B. So, if you wanna close and,
Do you have any other old business? Do you have a new
No.
application?
no, well,
Send
the
it.
40B.
Well, I mean, you don't have anything for tonight.
No,
Okay.
we can take a recess.
Anybody else have any old business to discuss? Okay. So how about a motion to close the, business meeting for November 7th?
I'll make a motion to close business meeting for November 7th, 2017.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting's closed, and we'll go back online in about 15 minutes for tonight's hearing, which will commence about 7:30.
When you're ready, there is
Who's
new
alternate? A regular,
new correspondence,
I think
which
I'm
we're gonna do at the beginning.
okay. Actually, yeah, you're alternate.
I'm the,
All the.
yeah,
Ask Patty, she
Okay,
said
you're
it.
on.
Patty, who
Yep.
are alternates, just so I know?
probably me, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're an alternate.
Probably.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry.
okay,
I
so
just wanna
Dave,
make
so
sure.
Dave Twist is voting?
Correct, all right. Okay, it's about 7:31 on Tuesday, November 7th, so I'd like to open the hearing tonight for 23 East Main Street. First, I'd like to introduce the members of the board. We already read the rules of procedure for tonight, so we'll revert back to the business meeting for that. Tonight's members are Dave Twist and Sharon Freeman, Paul Schillen, Sean Dean, and Dave Kapnis. Sharon will be an alternate member tonight. The other 5 of us will be voting. My name is Jeff Moore. I'm the chairman. So let's start by reading the legal ad. Sean, you want to
Sure
start
thing.
with that?
Yeah, here's a legal notice, Town of Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals for 203 East Main Street. It's ad number 136215545. It appeared in the Georgetown Record on 10/20 and 10/27 of 2017. The public hearing will be held on November 7th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall, 3rd floor meeting room for applications filed by applicant and lessee Mr. Jason Mello, Vice President of Operations for G. Mello Disposal Corporation at 95 Tenney Street in Georgetown, Massachusetts, 01833, and owner, Town of Georgetown, 1 Library Street, Georgetown, Mass. 01833, for the property located at 203 East Main Street, Assessor's Map 10, Lot 45 in the RC District. The applicant requires a special permit for construction of an additional building, more than 1 building on a lot, and a special permit for the expansion or alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming use, a special permit for construction in the Water Resources District, and a special permit for construction within the floodplain district, all pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Georgetown Zoning Bylaws, Chapter 165, Sections 8 through 11, 20-28, 29-38, 74-79, 81, and 94, DBA file number 18-02.
Very good, thank you. So we're going to start with the applicant presentation, but I think for the audience as well, I just want to quickly review sort of how this hearing's going to go so that everybody kind of has an idea of what we're going to do. The applicant, you guys will give a presentation on why you're here and what's going on. We have some new correspondence that we're going to read into the record as well. I will ask for any audience participation following that. Anybody in the audience, if you have anything you'd like to contribute to the hearing, you'll be invited to stand up and speak. You will have to provide your name and address for the record, and we'll give you every opportunity to be heard. The board will have questions for the applicant. In some cases, we may have questions, follow-up questions from members of the audience if we feel it's relevant. We will go back to the audience at some point for follow-up if anybody has anything that they'd like to add at that point. And then we would generally enter into board discussion, which may or may not include, further questions from the applicant. So just so everybody's on board with how it's going to go, because some of these can take a little while, and I don't want the audience to feel like you're being left out. You will absolutely have every opportunity to speak. So with that, welcome, and you've met the members of the board. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and go from there.
Thank you very much. I'm Nancy McCann. I'm the attorney for the applicant, G. Mello Disposal Corp.
Rick Bathamus, Linfield Engineering. I'm the engineer for the applicant.
Jason Mello, Vice President of Operations for G. Mello Disposal.
Good. Very good. So, Nancy, you're going to be
Yeah.
starting with the presentation?
Sure.
All right. Why don't you go right ahead?
I'll give
and-
a general presentation of why we're here, what we're looking for, and then, if you'd like, I'll have Rick take you through the specifics of the plan, exactly what we're proposing to do. So the property is located at 203 East Main Street. As you are all familiar, this is your local transfer station and recycling center. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the property. We're seeking 4 special permits as indicated in the legal notice, one of which is an alteration of a nonconforming use. The building inspector has determined that this site is a pre-existing nonconforming use, having been on this property for many, many years. As you probably know, the site was a landfill originally. It has now been capped and closed, and it is a transfer station and a recycling center. That's the property generally that we're talking about that the applicant leases from the town of Georgetown. The property itself is owned by the town. DPW building is also located on the property and is shown on the plans that you have. The applicant has been part of this property for probably 40 years, operating a transfer station and the transfer station and recycling facility, so that he has a great deal of history on this site, both himself as well as his family. The existing transfer station and recycling center is operated currently under a DEP permit, an ATO authorization to operate, which was issued in April of 2008. That governs the existing facility and the existing operations. The ATO from DEP is valid for 10 years. So we're looking at an expiration coming up this spring in April of 2018. So we'll need to go through a renewal process at that time. So understanding that that was coming up, about a year and a half ago, Jason and Rick started the process of putting together the plan that would be needed to continue the licensing of this location, because obviously the transfer station and the recycling center provide an important, really essential public benefit to the town. It's a needed service, and it's certainly a benefit to the town to have such a facility here for the use by the residents and others. So about a year and a half ago, conversation started with DEP. What was DEP going to require in order to continue the licensing? Because since 2008, there have been changes in regulations, changes in requirements under the Massachusetts Master Plan for solid waste facilities, and Jason wanted to be prepared for that. So there were meetings with DEP, and it was made clear that in order to continue the licensing of this facility, there were going to have to be some improvements made to the site, and those generally revolved around enclosing current operations that are now not enclosed. So that means creating a building so that the transfer operations, transfer facility operations, are going to be enclosed. Upgrading and continuation of recycling and having recycling components available are also a big part of the state's master plan for recycling facilities, so we have to accommodate that. So as we're going forward to create the plan to upgrade the facility to meet the new regulations and meet the guidelines that are required, we took the opportunity to take some steps that will address circulation issues on the site, and took an opportunity to say, how can we make the facility better for those who are using the facility to improve the operations? Because we have an existing transfer station and a recycling center. How can we use this process that we have to go through, an opportunity to take some steps to improve operations so that the experience for the users will be improved. So, in addition to meeting with DEP, Jason has met with the Board of Selectmen and has frequent meetings with the town administrator, because again, this property is leased from the town. He's met with the Board of Health. We've had meetings with the building inspector, all in anticipation of putting together the applications that we've submitted to you. And as you see from the application package, it's quite comprehensive. We have a lot of information in there for you. The building inspector has made a determination. He made a determination back in August that listed out the special permits that we would need. He made a supplemental determination in October that dealt with the floodplain issue and whether we really fall under or need a special permit under the floodplain requirements under your bylaw. So you do have both of those determinations from the building inspector as part of your submission. So we got all of that information gathered, and we've put together a proposal, and that proposal is going to improve and upgrade the existing transfer station and the recycling facility, and to make an improved facility, a cleaner facility, and a better experience for the users. Currently, we have a covered waste and tipping area, which is really your transfer station part, and it's covered, but it's an open area. We have a trailer loading area, the scale office, the residential drop-off area and recycling center. And we're licensed at 50 tons per day average, with a maximum of 60 tons per day. The proposal that we're going to present to you tonight replaces the existing covered transfer station portion with a new building, with an actual enclosed building, 7,050 square foot building that will house the transfer station operations. There's a relocation of the residential drop-off area and the recycling components that we think is going to improve the general circulation of traffic through the site. And we're proposing to increase the capacity to 300 tons per day maximum.
From what to what?
To 300 tons.
From what now?
50 with a maximum of 60
60 to 300.
tons
So the
per day.
60 max will become 300.
Correct. The proposed building, as you'll see on the plans, meets all of the dimensional and density requirements of this zoning district, which is the RC zoning district under the zoning bylaw. As part of this process, we also consulted with a traffic engineer who presented and prepared for us a traffic analysis, which went into a determination of the capacity of the site as well as a general location of facilities on the site. And so we do have that traffic analysis that was prepared by Bayside Engineering. We are proposing for this improvement to this site 1 new employee over existing conditions. The hours of operations will remain the same as what they have been. Putting all of that information together is what went into the 2 application packages that you have before you tonight. We did also receive approval from the Board of Health for the increased capacity that we just talked about to the 300 tons per day capacity, and that was voted in August. So that's an overview of what we're hoping to do. We have an existing transfer station and recycling facility. We want to improve that, bring it up to the state guidelines, as well as address some internal circulation issues, which will result in a neater facility, we think a cleaner facility, and one that will improve the transfer facility experience of those who use the transfer facility. So I think at this point, Rick, I'll have you go through the specifics of what I just gave you an overview on.
So the existing site is approximately 30 acres. The Mellow Disposal leases approximately 2 acres from the town, and those 2 acres were site assigned for a solid waste transfer station by the Board of Health in 1981. So to give you a orientation to the site, 133 East Main Street is to the north. The site access road. These buildings here that are highlighted are the highway department facilities. The existing transfer station structure is located here, and then this area of the site is utilized for the residential drop-off area. And the site assigned area is pretty much, the area right here. It's delineated on another plan, but so residents that are utilizing the facility enter through the access road, and they bypass the existing scale house and enter into the residential drop-off area. In the drop-off area, there's roll-off containers for MSW and other materials, and bunkers for metals, white goods, for temporary storage. That traffic then, again, exits the site and bypasses the scale facility. Commercial vehicles that are using the facility, again, enter the site. They pass over the scale and then pull into the staging area in front of the transfer station. the vehicles back in onto this tipping pad. They discharge their loads. Once the load is discharged, they pull out, pass over the scale, the vehicle is weighed, and they exit the site. In the operation of the facility, again, a lot of the activity has to take place outside the building because inside, this structure is about 2,000 square feet. It's three-sided with a roof. Again, most of the people have been there, they know the facility. And then the waste material that's deposited on the tipping pad is pushed inside the building. Adjacent to the building is a truck loading well. So on a regular basis, the material is removed from the building by a rubber tire loader, brought outside and discharged into a 100-yard cubic yard trailer for removal from the site. That trailer passes over the scale again and then exits the site, via the existing access road. So when we started looking at the project, the first thing that we looked at was to put the transfer station in the location of the existing building. There were construction costs, excessive construction costs because of the changing in grade here. But one of the biggest problems was this site is heavily utilized by the town, and we needed to keep the facility operating while the new building was being constructed. So eventually, we looked at putting a new structure on the north side of the site-assigned area and relocating the residential drop-off area onto the existing capped landfill. The benefit of this is twofold. One, for the operation of the residential drop-off area, we can separate the traffic. We can separate the residential vehicles from the commercial vehicles. Also, with the design, the residential drop-off area now has it has a circular flow, so the residents will come in, they'll be directed, this is one-way traffic. We have compactors here for the disposal of paper and commingled recyclables. They'll continue down here. We have containers that are located on the site-assigned area for disposal of MSW. And then the vehicles will continue down out the entrance, or the entrance of the recycling area, down the access road and exit the site. Commercial vehicles will come in, they'll continue to pass over the scale, but now we have a nice staging area in front of the building. And the vehicles that are discharging their loads will back completely inside the building now, discharge onto a tipping floor inside the building. All the waste handling activity will take place inside the building, and on the north side or the west side of the building here is a truck loading well. Transfer trailers can back down into the building, and the waste will be loaded directly from the tipping floor into a transfer trailer, again, completely enclosed inside the building. After they discharge their load, they'll pull out, do a circular movement, pass over the scale, be weighed, and exit the site. We're proposing to retain the existing structure. Currently, we accumulate some recyclables, mainly plastics, and the idea is that we'll continue to use this building for recyclables. But again, it's plastic, mainly like plastic bottles, not all recyclables. And again, we have the truck loading well, we can continue to load out the recyclables. And again, those vehicles will pass over the scale and exit down the existing access road. So,
You mean it would be commercial vehicles with only recyclables that would use that?
yes. It wouldn't be residents.
Wouldn't be residents.
How many commercial vehicles currently come in there and drop off recyclables?
Do you know?
Up in the existing building?
How often do you see commercial vehicles
There's only a couple a day
Couple a day?
for the recyclables, yes.
Where would right now you can drop off like refrigerators and that sort of thing, where would that be relocated?
Up
You know,
into the
metals.
existing building as well.
Pardon me?
Up into the existing building as well.
The recyclable
Yes,
building,
because the metals are recyclable.
got it, okay. The lean-to, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I just want to be clear before we move on, it's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. So in your plan, it wasn't showing necessarily, at least I'm maybe looking at a different plan, but I didn't see in here the residential drop-off area to the right. I don't know if that's north.
the north.
I'll call it the north of the new building. Is this your final plan?
Yes, I mean,
That
that's,
you're proposing?
yes.
The plan, it's the same as the plan that was submitted. I think the difference is that the new building was shown dark and bold line.
Yeah.
The new residential drop-off area is not shown in bold. It's shown in light, and so it's difficult to tell. Could you point that
On
out?
a different plan? Oh, no.
It should be on there.
Okay, one of them maybe shows it. Well, it's on the floodplain, possibly. I'm looking at the site layout plan and I don't see the residential drop-off area.
All right, this is
Get an idea of how this is gonna work.
site layout. Okay, so it is site layout plan
C3.
C3, and it says proposed compactors behind and slightly to the right of the bold proposed transfer station.
Oh,
It's not in bold. It probably should have been bolded to be a little more clear.
See a proposed container.
Up above the,
Oh, I see, there it is, okay.
Okay.
All right.
that'll be the residential dropout.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, but the drive isn't, oh, I guess the drive is sort of shown on here. All right, it's a different line, got it, all right.
Right.
So
We have
this
a
is-
lot of.
There's a lot of
These
activity
are
on
the same plans is what I'm
Yes.
getting at. This
Yes.
plan and that are the same, you color coded it over
It's-
there.
we colored it,
Got
yes.
Got it,
Yes.
all right.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be other questions along the same lines, so I just want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing.
The whole thing.
So, we can move on to the floodplain aspect of it unless you want to ask any particular questions about operations, or we can just finish the,
one quick one, because I read the project description, and I wanna understand, while this construction is going on, if this takes place and this construction is going on, during the construction time frame, you'll still maintain, will you maintain the current amount of tonnage? 50, 60 to max?
Yeah, I mean, we would need to, we have additional, obviously, additional local permits that we need to obtain. We have to go to the Conservation Commission, we have to go to the Planning Board, we need a building permit from the building inspector. We also need state permits. We need a post-closure reuse permit to construct the transfer station and the residential drop-off facility. And then once they're constructed, we need to file a permit to operate. And the outcome of that permit to operate will be a new authorization to operate that will stipulate, you know, basically the terms and conditions of the permit and the tonnage. So you know, until this is all permitted, built, and inspected, we won't receive an authorization to operate. And during that period, the benefit of this plan is we can continue to use the existing structure for handling waste and you know, we'll modify the residential drop-off area, but the idea is to keep this facility operating during construction.
And that permit is from the DEP?
Yes.
That stipulates your use limits on tonnage per day. And that's a
Yeah.
typical permit is regulated on tonnage per day, I assume?
Yes.
That's how they do it, okay.
And it will have a number, you know, I mean, it will have a number of conditions regulating the operation.
And does that include recyclables and non-recyclable material in the totals, or is that one
The-
or the other? Is
The
recyclable
permitted capacity is for solid waste.
Okay.
So MSW, construction and demolition debris.
Okay.
The recycling area, is, as long as we, are below certain thresholds, is exempt.
Okay. So the recycling is not part of the current proposed
Correct.
or increased tonnage, okay.
How did you go from 50 to 300? Like, I'm just trying to understand, are you at capacity, are you at 50,000 now? How did you project 300? Is it 20-year plan? I'm just trying to understand.
Well, the standards that the DEP is applying to us now is, again, they want us in a, totally enclosed structure. They want roll-up doors, truck loading well inside the building. They want the buildings with sprinkler systems. So to accommodate that, there's a certain expense. I mean, it's a $1.5 million or more,
So your tonnage
construction.
is really about
So,
recovering costs.
But we also, we looked at traffic, we did different scenarios, and we also looked at the market. And so why we will go to DEP and, we present on our information is a 300-ton-a-day facility. 300 ton a day is a maximum daily tonnage, number one. The facility will not operate at, 300 ton a day. And also, we don't think that, we're gonna see that type of tonnage, it's gonna be gradual over time that the tonnage will ramp up at this facility. But we felt that for the size of the building that we were required, that we felt dimensionally to operate, that 300 ton a day, we were able to do it with minimal impact. And also, like I said, it's a max daily, not a, we're not anticipating that this facility is gonna operate at 300 ton a day when it opens or for an extended period of time.
And do you know where you are at today? Are you at 50? Are you like
The average just under 50.
just under 50? So you're close to. Okay.
I think, you have a lot of specifics, I know, because there's several permits here, so you're gonna wanna get into the details of all of those. I'm just trying to figure out how to sort this out, sort of logistically. Are there other operational issues you wanna discuss as far as what the overall plan is? I mean, I know you're gonna have technicalities as far as how you're gonna mitigate, you got a wastewater issues that you felt are gonna, describe, I'm sure, not wastewater, excuse me, floodplain and, water resource,
Right.
We have a
We
lot
have
of
some other,
boxes to check
we have
here.
other mitigation measures that
Um,
are part of the operation and
Right.
design that we can discuss.
Right, we're gonna wanna obviously talk about that as part of those permit discussion. Is there anything else you wanna add at this point as far as the overall plan, for the facility? And then maybe I'll open it up to the audience so they can, start commenting, and then we can kinda go from there. And then get back. Oh, yeah, I have correspondence as
I
well, but
think-
let's let them
I
think.
think we've given you the overview of what we're looking for and the layout, and I think that, and how it operates. And the general operation, of what we have now is simply going to be improved and expanded upon in what we're proposing to do. But it's not a substantial change in the use of the property. It's still a transfer facility, it's still a recycling area. We just feel is going to be a better layout, and this is the time to do that. Part of the narrative in both of the applications included the operation section in the project description, which goes through all of the different mitigation measures with regard to, it talks about the traffic analysis, noise, litter, odor control, bird hazards, wetlands. It goes through all of that so that you have that information in your package, and we can certainly go through each of those.
Right.
With regard to the individual special permits, obviously, the first is the alteration and expansion of the non-conforming use. We've given you the information in this package. We think that it supports the finding that what we're proposing is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what we already have. The other special permit that we're seeking is to have more than one building on on the site. There's already more than one building on this site, and we're simply adding a new building to meet the DEP regulations. That's a pretty straightforward application. The next is the floodplain, and I think that bears some discussion, and maybe we should talk about that now, because perhaps we can dispense with that application portion. Initially, when we got the building inspector's determination, there was a determination that we needed a special permit for work within the floodplain. You have a supplemental determination from the building inspector from October, following a meeting that we had with him. And it's interesting because the zoning bylaw talks about and defines the floodplain zone as the area shown on the May 1st, 1980 map. And the building inspector was able to find that map. It wasn't easily found, but but he was able to find it. And here it is. This is the floodplain map. What we have highlighted in that circle is Locust, is the site that we're talking about. And as you'll see from that May 1st, 1980 map that's referenced in the zoning bylaw, the site is not in the floodplain. So, I think based on the map, which is what is used in the zoning bylaw, I think we don't need a special permit because the property isn't in the floodplain. And that's a determination.
There was a supplemental,
The letter in there.
letter from last.
Yeah, that's
Right.
the
Just so happens to be here, thank you.
It's in the packet.
It is in the package.
And the author of which is kind enough to show up tonight to help explain
He's
it. It
here.
was one of the
Good.
questions I was
Good.
asking him earlier, of where we are. But just sort of to back up a moment, in the floodplain district, one of the findings this board would need to make is that if any land in a floodplain is proven to the satisfaction of this Board of Appeals as being in fact not subject to flooding, that the land will not increase the danger to the health, safety of the occupants thereof, and that such land will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare by causing damage to any of the landowners resulting from the development of the floodplain and the consequent construction of the flow, then we can issue a special permit for
Right.
construction in the floodplain. So I think determining that it is in fact not subject to flooding is a condition or a finding we need to make in granting that special permit. I may
think
be
if-
wrong on that.
Well, I think the first step is to determine whether it's in the floodplain.
Perhaps.
And
so.
that's the first map that we have, and that's what was indicated as item number 2 in the building inspector's October 10 memo. And if, in fact, this plan, the 1980 plan, is controlling, as stated in the zoning bylaw, then the property isn't in the floodplain. We don't need a special permit, and you don't need to make the finding that you just mentioned.
Les, do you want to jump in for a moment?
The first determination was based on the current town zoning map. That's the MVPC map, that's our official current map. We're working with the applicant on trying to determine where that floodplain came from. I was doing some research and I came upon that 1980 map. So in the current maps, it is in the floodplain district. But when you go to the actual language within the floodplain zoning section, it refers to that map, so we have a discrepancy. So my first inclination was that's something for the ZBA to determine.
Hmm?
Now, secondly, that second, the latest section on the floodplain zoning, the 16527 severability, states that an applicant can dispute the floodplain zone if the applicant furnishes a plan prepared by a registered professional engineer showing 2-foot contours and demonstrates to the satisfaction of the building inspector or the board. Well, the plan they prepared, the floodplain is defined as elevation 90 in this area. The plan actually shows the 90-foot contour going into the building. It just nips a small part of the building. So technically, by using that for the clarification, they are technically within that elevation 90. Now, on the good side, they're able to demonstrate based on FEMA flood data. The FEMA flood data gives an elevation of 82. See, there's along Penn Brook, it shows elevations along the brook, and there's a flood elevation given. So So although our floodplain zone says 90, that's a conservative number, I believe, but it's actually defined by FEMA as being 82. So I think they have 8 feet of leeway there on the good side.
I agree. I mean, I guess my question would be, had you originally found the map that you found, would you have included this requirement in your original denial for this board to consider?
I would have, because there are 2 different maps, there are 2 maps that are, in disagreement, and that's something I would send to the Board of Appeals. I can't just determine that as a building inspector which map, there's a discrepancy in our zoning
Mhm.
between maps and the language. And number 2, they've actually demonstrated that elevation 90 does go into the building. So that's actual elevation contours from a surveyor. So
Fair enough. So we can either argue that it's not required, or you can sort of argue that it's not subject to flooding, your choice, I guess.
And I think we can
To be
do
quite
both.
honest, whatever is
And-
easier
and
and more
we can-
straightforward.
And that's.
And maybe it's all part of the same thing. so.
It is kind of all part of the same thing, and what adds another layer to this, when you look at the regulations, the building and the work that we're proposing is not habitable space. And that plays into the bylaw too. You can't have habitable space in a floodplain. Well, we're not proposing habitable space. So, and we have, done compensatory flood storage calculations so that we can say, and our engineer can say, that we're not going to cause any detriment as a result of the work proposed. So, I think you could say that that the 1980 map is controlling, and then we don't need to apply for the special permit at all. Or, given that there is a discrepancy, we can demonstrate to you that the floodplain in this area, based on the FEMA floodplain map, is 82. We're not doing any work below 82. We're doing just a small corner of a non-habitable building is at elevation 90. So I think you could determine that the 1980 plan is controlling and we don't need the special permit, or we certainly have provided enough evidence to support the issuance of a special permit if you decide that one is needed.
Okay, fair enough.
Les, to be clear, we're talking about this back corner here?
This is the front corner.
Front corner, right
This is
there,
actually-
right
this is
there.
front corner.
So what we've done on this plan is, this is the FEMA floodplain, elevation 82. This is the limits of the town floodplain map. Notes here. Showing the boundaries of basically our site as being public land. So, the area in here would be outside the floodplain. And we've also shown elevation 90, and as you can see, well, you can't see, there's a blow up. If we use elevation 90,
165.23.
here's the proposed structure. This is the area of displacement, and the depth of the displacement is
Cubic, human
approximately 6 inches.
habitation
So,
For any occupation.
construction of this building would displace about 300 cubic feet of storage capacity. And we can easily provide that storage capacity as compensatory storage in one of the infiltration basins on the site. So this, again, on here, we've tried to show you everything.
Which does.
Sorry.
We need to do new correspondence. And
Yeah, I
we
think
need
what,
exhibits.
yeah, okay, so I think what I'd like to do, we have some new correspondence, some of which may relate to this discussion, some of it's not. The other finding relative to floodplain, if the board makes the determination that it's required, we have to find that the proposed use is not contrary to the purpose of the district, which is, in my opinion, synonymous with the expansion of the use piece anyway. So I think if we determine that this floodplain special permit is required, it might make sense to look at the use first, because I don't think we're gonna be able to make one finding without the other. I don't know if you disagree with that or agree, but the use comes into play in the floodplain as well. And so we're not gonna get through either of those without talking about the expansion of the use piece. My
Yeah.
experience tells me that
Mhm.
it's all gonna come into play, so, I'm not quite ready to, personally, I don't know if you guys may have questions about whether or not this permit is required. But
Well-
before we go too far, I would like to maybe get some, get the correspondence read. We do have new correspondence on the project, and I'd maybe also invite the audience to participate a little bit. They may have some thoughts and concerns about this. Les, do you know of any flooding, at this, actually, has there been any flooding issues at the site?
Never.
We had the Mother's Day storm way back when.
Did not affect us at
Yeah,
all.
okay. And you've been there quite a while.
Yes.
Let's go to correspondence switch gears for a minute. Paul, we have a letter. You wanna?
I have a
read that
letter
one?
dated September 12th from Philip Ogren, 223 East Main Street, addressed to the Town of Georgetown Board of Selectmen, Zoning Board of Appeals, Conservation Commission, and Board of Health. Dear Department and Board members, I'm writing you in regards to Board of Health hearing held on August 28th, 2017 for abutters to the G Mello Transfer Station and its intentions to expand this location on East Main Street by sixfold. At the meeting, we addressed three main issues: trash in the street, noise, and smells, none of which seem to have been addressed in the engineer's plan. I inquired as to the zoning of this property, and after some time, it was noted that the zoning of this property is residential, not industrial. I am curious as to why the town of Georgetown allows for this multi-million-dollar commercial industrial enterprise to continue to operate on this residentially zoned parcel. I believe this has had an adverse effect on my property value. When I purchased this property, it was a small town operated dump and not a multi-million-dollar private enterprise. I would like to know if there are any restrictions as to operating hours, as I have heard trucks there at 6:30 in the morning from my porch. If there is to be any sound barrier protections, runoff protection, and loose trash containment in this proposed, is there to be, in this proposed expansion?
Okay. Thank you.
Is that a?
Fine. Sean, you've
Sure.
Skipping people, okay?
been, sorry,
That's all right.
giving everybody a breather here. We got a few things to read in the record. You ready?
So I have an undated letter here from, I'm sorry if I mispronounced this, Don Sowini. Dear board members, selectmen, zoning, conservation, and health, my name is Don Sowini, and I graduated from Georgetown High School in 1976. Bought land at 123 East Main in 1982 and built a house in 1984. I recently attended a Board of Health hearing on 8/28 to learn that Mello Disposal is trying to increase their 50 tons to 300 tons per day. At that time, I also learned that it is classified as an industrial business operating in a residential zone. It is also in a wetlands area, and I could never understand how a transfer station was allowed to operate there. I have canoed down the Penn Brook, and there are many little streams leading into the Penn Brook from the transfer station area, and I can only imagine what is drained in there. I have looked into transfer station drainage, and I believe that they are supposed to have a containment system, that all water runoff from rain is considered hazardous and should be contained and disposed of properly. I don't believe Mello Disposal has such a system now or has ever had such a system. However, my biggest concern is odor. I'm familiar with the transfer station in Peabody, and on a warm day with a slight breeze, you can smell the trash for almost a mile. This will aggravate more than just the butters. It will affect neighborhoods as far away as Pillsbury Lane and Tenney Street. I hope the boards will take a serious look into the transfer station and realize that we should be trying to remove the transfer station and not expand it. We, the abutters, bought our houses in a residential zone and should enjoy the same benefits as other homes in residential zones. We should not have to hear dumpsters banging, trucks backing up, traffic, and the smell of trash trucks leaving, and with such an expansion, odor is sure to be a problem. And because I am set back, I have the added problem of an occasional truck coming down my driveway, mistaking me for the transfer station. I thank you for your time and hope you will consider removing the transfer station and not expanding it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call me at the number below. Thank you, Don Sowini. I'm going to omit from reading this person's personal
Thank you.
phone number.
Thank you. Letter from the Georgetown Board of Health dated October 10th, 2017. From Deb Rogers regarding the G Mills Disposal Inc., 95 Tenney Street in Georgetown. Transfer station proposal, minor site modification, Board of Health decision. Dear Mr. Mello, excuse me, this was addressed to Mr. Mello. Jason, as per your request, here is a copy of the Board of Health's decision that was made at the Board of Health's meeting and discussed at the public hearing on August 28th, 2017. The motion by Paul Thompson to approve the proposed transfer station's minor site modifications with the following conditions: ventilation in the building, odor control, and policing of the area for trash debris. Seconded by Bill Giannakopoulos. And the vote was unanimous. Sincerely, Deb Rogers, the health agent for the town of Georgetown. That's the health, that's the vote that you referred to earlier, right?
Right.
Okay. Another letter from the Georgetown Water Department dated November 1st, 2017.
It's actually addressed to planner, so
It
don't
is.
get confused.
Yeah, I
He
know,
gave
I
it
just
to
wanna
me.
make sure I got this right.
He's new.
Okay, this is addressed to the Georgetown Planning Department regarding zoning board filing at 203 East Main Street. I am writing on behalf of the Georgetown Water Department to provide my feedback on the proposed transfer station construction at 203 East Main Street. This feedback applies to the proposed plans reviewed documents. Based on my review, I have generated the following comments. The elevations show a proposed sprinkler fire suppression room, but the site plans do not show connections into the existing water infrastructure. The site is currently served by a 6-inch water main that serves the highway garage and a fire hydrant located near the material stockpile on site. I asked that the new facility have a fire hydrant located near the northwest corner of the proposed building. I recommended that a flow test be performed on the existing fire hydrant to confirm that the existing 6-inch line is large enough to provide water supply for the proposed fire suppression system. If you have any questions regarding this matter, please contact me at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, Georgetown Water Department. Jim Lavakia, is that right, Patty? Thank you, General Manager. You got another one, Paul?
This is addressed to the Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals regarding G Mello Disposal Corp. It is from Fire Department Headquarters. Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals, the Fire Department is in full support of 203 East Main Street project with the following provisions. First, the facility must meet all Mass DEP regulations for confinement, containment, and runoffs of any hazardous waste or materials. Also, any and all hazardous materials be properly stored. Also, the proposed building must meet all existing Mass General Law 527 CMR and NFPA fire codes pertaining to these their facilities use. Finally, ensure that the fire department has adequate access to the facility in case of an emergency response. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. Thank you. Chief Fred Mitchell.
Paul? Sean, there's a letter
Yep.
from the planning board, right?
Letter from the planning board dated November 1st, 2017 to our chairman, Jeff Moore, regarding the subject property. Dear Chairman Moore, the Georgetown Planning Board at its 25th October 2017 meeting voted to forward the following comments to the Zoning Board of Appeals in regard to the proposed G Mello Disposal Corporation's transfer station expansion plans located at 203 East Main Street, Georgetown, Mass. 1, the planning board is aware of the ZBA filings for 203 Main Street calling for the quote, construction of an additional building, more than one building on a lot, a special permit for the expansion or alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming use, a special permit for construction in the Water Resource District, and a special permit for construction within the floodplain district, all pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 6 and 9, and Chapter 165, Sections 8-11, 20-28, 29, 38, 74, 79, 81, and 94 of the zoning bylaws. 2, prior to commencement of construction, this proposed expansion project must receive site plan approval from the planning board for section 165-83 of the zoning ordinance and possibly approval from the major development review per section 165-80.2 of the zoning ordinance. Note the potential to require major development review, MDR, takes into consideration the increased traffic volume associated with the proposed transfer station plans, which call for tripling the size of the refuse receiving building, i.e. from existing 2,000 feet to 7,050 feet, together with a six-fold increase in received refuse tonnage, i.e. 50 tons per day to 300 tons per day. However, unless automatically applied for by the project proponent, the potential for the planning board to require MDR would only result from traffic, quote, peer review, findings matched against the criteria calling for MDR per section 165-80.2. 3. In addition to increased traffic volume concerns, especially with expansion project of this magnitude, the planning board will also review and analyze the following site plan review issues of concern per 165-83 of the zoning ordinance. 1. Legal conformance with the provisions of the bylaws of the town, the general laws of Massachusetts, and the applicable rules and regulations of state and federal agencies. 2. Parking. 3. Town services. 4. Pollution control. 5. Nuisance. 6. Existing vegetation. 7. Landscaping, screening, and buffering. 8. Town character. 9. Drainage and watershed protection. In closing, the purpose of the site plan approval are to protect the health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the inhabitants of the town of Georgetown, as well as the natural resources that people depend upon by providing a comprehensive review of land use and development plans. In this regard, the planning board will work toward fulfilling its duties and responsibilities of properly analyzing the criteria called for by site plan review, as well as the criteria included in MDR, if same become applicable for this project. Sincerely, John Cashel, Town Planner.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And lastly, we have an email from Steve Brzezinski from the ComCon agent, Patty, dated November 2nd, 2017. Patty, I wanted to give you an update and comment on the project at 203 East Main Street, plan dated 10/6/2017. The plan details, including limit of work, are lacking. This makes it very difficult to accurately assess the activities as they relate to the Georgetown wetlands regulations. It appears that the paved area where the dumpsters are located are within an area where they are not allowed. The plan will need to be cleaned up and made more clear at some point in order to complete my assessment. The applicant has also filed an RAD with Concom. As they have missed a review window for the season, the project will get continued to May 2018 when the season opens up again. This means that the Concom will not be able to verify the accuracy of the resources on property till that spring. Any questions, let me know. Thank you, Steve. And we can talk about any of the specifics also, but just for clarification, you've met with the Board of Health.
Yes.
You got approval of them.
Yes.
You have met with Concom at this point, or you have?
We did meet with Conservation Commission at their last meeting on the ANRAD, which is simply a delineation of the resource area.
Right.
And they did extend the time period for that delineation review, but there was some delay, I think, in the processing of the paperwork that was necessary to complete that as far as getting the town's peer review consultant on board. And as a result, that that window has expired. And so the delineation, as Steve had mentioned in his letter, window doesn't open up until next spring. An official delineation is not required, however, let me say that. That's an optional thing that an applicant can do, but it's not required. What is required for the work that we're proposing is the filing of a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission. And that we can do and will do in order to permit what we're doing within the buffer zone, which is very limited activity, but we do have to make that filing. So I don't think it's correct to say that what we're proposing is not permitted. We simply have to file, and we haven't done that yet. And when we do, all of the specifics that are needed for the Conservation Commission to make their determination will be incorporated into that plan. So we have met with the Conservation Commission. That application for the ANRAD may well be simply withdrawn because it can't be heard now until May, and we'll just go forward with this, with a notice of intent, because as I said, the ANRAD process is discretionary, is optional, we don't have to do it. With regard to the planning board comments and the other comments that were read, I don't disagree with any of them. We have to do certain things. We will have to file for site plan approval, which will address all of the issues that Mr. Cashel mentioned.
You haven't had, I don't mean to interrupt, but you haven't had any occasion to meet with the planning board on this project for any reason yet, is that correct?
Did you
haven't-
meet
did you-
informally?
I went to one of their meetings just to keep them informed as to
Okay.
what we were thinking of doing and showed them the plan, but didn't ask for any.
Okay, you weren't there, you haven't started site plan review?
No, we wouldn't
No,
do
they
that
can't.
until we
Right.
get special permits
Right.
from you. And then that will be, of course, the fully engineered plan with all utility connections and all of that stuff
Yeah.
will be incorporated into that. But what,
I wanna make sure everybody understands where
right.
you are with the other boards in town, because there's a
Exactly.
lot, there's some backstory of what's been going, there's a lot of work been going on
right,
up to this point, so I wanna make sure everybody kinda understands where you are in that.
exactly.
And the Board of Selectmen you've met with, in fact, in your presentation, you mentioned that you got their support for the project. I think what was I forget exactly what you said, but you have met with them.
Jason has
Can you explain
met-
what that was all about?
Sure.
And what did you get
And I'll
from
have
them?
him describe that, but he's met with the selectmen and he meets fairly regularly with the town administrator
Right.
to keep him advised, because part of this process will include, discussions on the current lease, because we would be leasing a bit more area, so, than what's covered under the current lease from the town. So Jason, you wanna?
So my lease, it was set to expire last year, June 30th of last year. So when I went to meet with the town manager to discuss renegotiating a new lease for the property, he expressed that the board was going to want a new building put up, which, that's when we got into the discussion that DEP was going to require that as well. And we talked about renegotiating the lease for a longer term period so that we could feasibly put up the building and be able to afford it, so the board was gracious enough to give us a longer term lease for the project.
Okay, so you met with them to renegotiate the lease.
Yes.
At that point, you haven't presented this project as you've proposed to us, you haven't proposed this project to the Board of Selectmen for
No.
any reason. Not that it's required, I'm just, because I know you've met with them, I just wanna make sure.
Right,
Okay,
correct.
fair enough. So you don't have a letter of support or anything like that from them on what you're proposing tonight?
No, they just knew of what our intentions were
Okay.
in order to renegotiate the lease.
Okay, fair enough.
And increased your lease term
Correct.
as a result, so you've got a 10-year lease?
Now you have a 10-year, I
I
know
have a
it's
10-year
Plus-
lease with two
16,
10-year,
I think.
I have two 10-year renewals on
Okay.
top of that.
And the permit for DEP, not that they're related, what's the typical term for the permit, the DEP permit that you
10
receive?
years.
It's also 10 years. So the lease would be synonymous with your DEP permit. Is that kind of the idea?
It's close to it, yes.
Well, you don't have it yet, so yeah, okay, fair enough. All right,
A quick question, the
Yeah.
Conservation Commission, why you're involved in their setback issues, is that what you need to discuss with them?
There's some work in the buffer zone.
In the buffer zones,
In
right.
the wetland buffer zone.
Okay,
Limited work, but some work
Yeah.
requires a filing.
right, okay.
Are there any other questions on the administration of
Well,
the
quick-
town boards? What's going on with the town
Just a quick
board?
one, when you met with, town administrator about renewing the lease, he said the board was gonna require you to put up a new building.
They expressed that they would like us to put up a new building.
Would that be new as an additional building or to replace the existing one you had?
I don't think we made that completely clear. It was just they wanted the building completely enclosed so
Closed.
that it would be a cleaner property.
Okay.
Okay. I think at this point, I know the audience has been sitting here a while. I'd like to give them an opportunity to weigh in on their thoughts, if that's, works for everybody here.
Yep.
Before we get too involved in too many other questions, I want to hear from them if they're so inclined. So I guess at this point, if anybody in the audience is interested in having some comments, if you want to maybe stand at the podium, just give us your name and your address if you don't mind, and tell us what's on your mind. And if you could please just address the board and not the applicant.
Nothing against metal disposal. You know, I don't agree with what's happening, but I don't want, you know, I mean, nothing against the company. Just a few things that was brought up in your discussion before I get on what I really wanted to say was recycling. I've never gone in there when there hasn't been 3 or 4 people putting stuff in there. So I think the metal disposal, whoever was saying that a couple a day, the recycling bins get used all the time over there, not just, you know, sometimes you can't even back up to get out of the way to get in there, because I think everybody in town would rather put their stuff in there than pay to get rid of it. The Board of Health issue, I've talked to them after, they said they're still open to, you know, but like, I'm questioning their, traffic survey. And I told them, I said, that, you know, this was done, you know, the Conservation Committee hires a third party to do theirs. They didn't hire a third party, they went with their engineer, which happened to be done in July, vacation time, out of, no school, so it was done at a time when it was convenient for Mellow Disposal to do it, but not accurate. You know, for the town to really weigh in on what's, you know, what the traffic situation would be there. So, you know, these are just things that I think that the town should be considering before they go ahead and just jump to any conclusions and let, you know, go through with whatever special permits they need. That's just on what they were saying.
Sure.
Research for the traffic, like I said, they did it from 7/27 to 8/2 during the summer. You know, that's 128 pages, so it takes a little bit to go through. You know, listed everything from pedestrians walking to traffic to trucks to everything. Well, obviously, if school's out, you're not gonna get a whole lot of pedestrian traffic. There was nothing in their traffic survey that predicted what the outcome would be when he expands 6 times, when he goes from 50 tons to 300 tons. I believe from an abutter or the town, we should assume the most worst case scenario, not, well, we take in 50 a day now, we'll never get to 300, but we might only do 100. Because if he gets to 300, then obviously the picture is the way we should be looking at it, because that's worst case scenario for us. He's the one that's asking for it. So I'm sitting there saying, if he's got 2 big tractor trailers coming out of there a day now, taking trash out of there, now all of a sudden you go 6 times that, you got 12 tractor trailers coming out of there. Anybody's ever been around there, when a tractor trailer leaves, they're on both sides of the highway. I mean, both sides of 133. According to his report, there was 2 accidents in that area, and one of them was caused due to a tractor trailer leaving. So, just something that I'm thinking that, you know, if you're really gonna take traffic into consideration, then it needs to be done, you know, from the town's point of view of what you're really looking at. And then there's the odor. I'm familiar with the Peabody. I go to the FedEx building down there. On a hot day, the odor is so bad, you can smell it from the Salem Country Club golf course coming up. It's bad. So I'm saying, okay, so he says at the Board of Health that they will close and it will help. I personally think it will be worse. I think it will ferment in there, they'll open up those doors, and when those doors open up, that odor's gonna go, they're gonna be smelling it up on Pillsbury Lane, okay? They're gonna be smelling it over up on Tenny Street. It's, you know what I mean? Those people aren't abutters, but they're within the range that could be affected by them should this go through. Noise. I don't know what his hours of operation are, but they do start at 6 in the morning and sometimes 5:45. I let my dogs out. I'm on the western side of this transfer station, so I'm set back quite a bit from them. And so now that this has all been going on and I found out it's an industrial business and a residential, I've decided, okay, geez, I'll pay a little more attention about it, just to see how bad it really is, or how much worse it could get. And I can understand, I was about 500 feet away on my side of the river, and you can hear the tractor, the big bucket loaders crushing up the stuff to make it smaller so they can put it in a bucket to get it into the trailer. And I can't imagine the people that are a couple hundred feet away putting up with that. I just, I've been dealing with it because I've always thought it was industrial, but on a Saturday and Sunday morning, you go outside, who wants to hear that if they don't have to? Litter, no, paper everywhere on the road. If he increases that, this is for the town. I'm not speaking, I'm trying not to just speak as an abutter. I've lived in this town. I graduated in 1976. I got kids that went all through the school system. I got my oldest daughter just moved up on Lake Ridge in town. We've loved this town. I don't wanna see it get worse than it could be, should we all of a sudden establish a transfer station that's just gonna keep growing. I've looked in, with the internet now, you can research everything. And I never knew that runoff from a transfer station was considered hazardous waste until all of a sudden I started looking at it, and that's why I wrote letters out here. Hazardous waste, no containment system. Where's it all going? Dug up some old plans, which I will question that floodplain thing, cause I built my house in '82, and I had to do all the surveying that he's probably not even yet done, and that was a floodplains. And if it wasn't a floodplains, I've canoed all around there. That water rises pretty high. If you get the bad springs, it's a flood zone. But litter, all of a sudden you expand it, you're gonna have litter on the highways. Highway department's gonna have to clean it up. Route 133 is gonna look like a mess. I know he can't control the vehicles that are coming in, whether they cover their stuff. Believe me, I see trash at the end of my driveway that I'm constantly picking up, putting it in a barrel, bringing it to his place. That's only gonna get 6 times worse. As these, I know he can't control it, but you know what? The town can control it. If there's not a transfer station, or at least he keeps it at 50 tons, it's gonna be that much less. The highway department's gonna have to be picking up, or then you're gonna have road repairs. You got more bigger trucks gonna be pulling in and out of there, so you're gonna have road repairs to do. Finally, I guess I would say, I believe it's bad for the community. I believe people moved into this town because it's a small town, it's quiet, and this would be a reputation that I think that could get out of control to the point where if he can't control the odors and the noise and everything that can go along with a transfer station, that all of a sudden now we're gonna have a town that people don't wanna come to. It's gonna be the small town known as the litter bug. It's just not gonna be the nice quiet town that people would like to come to right now. And finally, I guess I would say, there's a reason Boxford, Raleigh, Newbury, Groveland don't have transfer stations. Before you would make up your minds, I would say, check with them. Ask them why, when their dumps got closed, why didn't they bring in a transfer station? Why? What kept them from doing it? Small town? Keep the small town atmosphere? I don't know. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Don.
Do you want us to respond, or do you want to hear?
I just got a handout.
I think we'll hear more from
Just,
everybody else, and I don't wanna have,
Just if somebody gets the time, it's a EPA.
In the record.
I just gave you
Sure.
a copy of the site.
Can I get
This
a
is
copy of
just
that,
Yeah.
please?
thing in the waste numbers. Like, no, this is, I only
Yeah,
have one
can you get a
copy.
copy?
You
Yeah.
can make
All
one.
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's just describing on the internet how hazardous waste, how trash is hazardous waste. The other thing is an EPA manual. It's 58 pages long, but it has a site,
Different things.
site preparation, what you should take into consideration. And this is the worst spot the transfer station should be, wetlands.
123.
Thank you, Don.
Main.
Yeah, there's two different things.
Yeah, it's 2 different things.
We'll. Ready, Patty?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll continue with the audience and,
Is it different?
One
please,
second.
wanna introduce yourself?
My
and-
name is Peter Rogan, and I'm with Hayes Engineering, and I represent Philip and Beverly Ogren, who is here this evening and resides at 223 East Main Street in Georgetown. He received notice of this public hearing, I believe, because he was considered to be a party of interest. And I've sat down and discussed the proposal with them, and there are a number of questions, a number of concerns, many of which this gentleman has already brought up, but there are some specific things that I think are really of concern here. And I think the first question would be, what evidence was submitted to the Board of Appeals that this is a pre-existing non-conforming use? I'm not a historian of the town of Georgetown. I didn't go to school here, but I've worked in the town for a good long time, and I think that this was a local dump that was a municipal use initially, and then became privatized through a lease. And I don't quite know how it got to be the status of a pre-existing non-conforming use, because as a municipal use, it would not have been subject to zoning, and then apparently had a lease perhaps when this company started to operate the transfer station, or maybe the dump originally and then the transfer station, and now it's become a large commercial operation. And I think that's a threshold issue, because I think there may be an underlying zoning issue. So I'd like to know what, on behalf of my client, what evidence was produced that said that this was pre-existing non-conforming. There are huge concerns as to the intensity of the use, and I think the first is the reason for the new building actually a mandate from the DEP that this facility has to be enclosed or enclosed at this size, or is this a sort of a chicken egg situation where well, we want to increase the usage, so we've got to increase the building size, or we've got to contain it inside the building? I don't think that's been particularly made clear. The hours of operation have been mentioned, that there's a limit of hours of operation now, but I haven't, and my brother hasn't heard what the hours of operation are, and do they have permit or hours of operation to work on Sundays and on Saturdays? And if so, what are those hours? I think the biggest objection as far as noise is concerned, as I understand it, is the backup alarms, which, as I understand it, go constantly over there. What kind of safeguards do they have, or what kind of proposal do they have to perhaps, try to control that as far as noise is concerned, when they said the Board of Health decision said that they were required for noise, dust, and odor control? I wondered what portion of the actual tonnage here is the town of Georgetown tonnage, and what portion of the tonnage is gonna be for open to the public. Obviously, if the maximum today is, I think they said 60 tons, the town of Georgetown tonnage falls into that now. When they go to 300, they're obviously opening it up to a tremendous amount of outside influence and outside transfer activities. As far as the issue of the floodplain is concerned, there was a lot of confusion when the engineer was presenting that about there was this map, there was that map. I know that the town of Georgetown initially had done their floodplain back in the days of Fred True, had done the floodplain based on a topographic map, and it's probably that map that Les found. I think I have a copy of it myself in my office. But all of the elevations were shown on one plan, and I wondered if anybody had looked into what datum those were supposed to be on, or what the basis of the original floodplain zoning was versus the zoning now. And I think you probably know that there's a couple of different datums that even the FEMA mapping has utilized. Lastly, specifically, it was stated that there was a health issue relative to having the delineation, getting the delineation done and moving forward with it. But I don't think that the Board of Health letter that was read articulated what the issue was as far as a health issue is concerned. And I think, we just kind of have a general question as to what is the health issue, or what is actually required as far as the health issue is concerned. And lastly, it was mentioned that there's going to be an increase in the lease, and I guess from what I just heard, the lease has already been renegotiated with the selectmen.
Last year, yes.
And what is the amount of increased area in the lease?
Want to answer? I think it was renewed.
There's no increase in
at
area.
par, right?
It was just the length of the lease.
Your engineers, your engineer stated that there'd be an increase in the area.
And there will be, if this plan is approved, we'll go back and negotiate the area.
Yeah.
with
We're
the
gonna
selectmen.
address that a little bit further. That's,
So
I was
the
kinda
ans-
getting where you were with all the boards at that point to kinda lead up
Right.
to that.
So
We're
the
gonna
answer
talk
is
about that.
There is to be an increase, but it's not determined yet.
I think that's fair enough. To stay.
Thank you.
So I looked at,
I missed your name because I was distracted over here.
Peter Ogren.
Oh, you're Pete, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Peter.
thank you, Peter.
Brother of Philip.
I'd like to maybe hold it for just a second, and you guys will absolutely get the chance to speak in a second, but there were some specific things, and we've got a lot of questions on the table, and you guys wanna respond to some of that as well. But while Les is here, if you don't mind, Les, regarding the pre-existing non-conforming use, I wanna get that out of the way, because Les does a lot of research on this. And, in his denial, he classifies this, and maybe you can speak to that
Just based
one.
on lack of information, I presumed it was the town dump since before 1956, that was our zoning, that's our first date of zoning. I know from local knowledge, it always was the dump, right, that was always the,
Yeah, 54.
like, before.
When was the original lease, signed, when you, the history
You
of
took over the
this
operation of
use
the
is?
The
as far as-
site assignment, what was the date, 1981?
1981.
1981.
But your family was operating
We managed
the
the
dump.
landfill before that as well.
Right.
But I don't know the timeframe of when we
No,
managed the
that-
landfill.
Fair enough. I mean,
So that would be the time frame is when you started to manage the landfill.
Correct.
And the landfill, I think, was closed in the late 70s, like 76, 78. So
Your
the
So it would've
site,
been before
father
that.
would've managed that prior, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Les, did you do it, I don't wanna put you on the spot, did you do any specific research to?
I pulled the
to
file, there's
make-
not much information in the file.
Yeah.
So lack of information, that's.
And what's the
This is-
statute on a use for determine pre-existing non-conforming? Isn't there a
It-
certain number of
it-
year, I mean,
No, to be pre-existing non-conforming, it had to have been permitted or unregulated at the time it was started. And then subsequently, there was a change in the zoning that made it not permitted anymore. So it had to start either prior to zoning or at a time when the use was not regulated. And then subsequently, there's been a change, so now it's pre-existing non-conforming. And so it was a municipal dump, but then it was taken over as the Mellow operation sometime well prior to the 70s, since it was closed in the 70s as a landfill. So it would have been sometime in that time frame, which we can get that data.
yeah, I guess for the record, I don't know when the zoning, I have to go back and look, but what the date of the zoning for residential was established.
In this particular area, I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Yep.
I'll field one more question, then we can get back to you a little
Mr.
bit.
Chairman, I think the point here is that, as a municipal dump, it would not have been subject to zoning, so it wasn't non-conforming. Because, things in the town, like a school or public works yard and stuff, is not subject to zoning, so.
Well, municipal uses are subject to zoning, but that use would predated the zoning code itself, so at the time, it was a dump, I don't wanna, interrupt, but that use at the time was not subject to zoning because it predated the zoning code. So the question is, at what point did this use, if it changed, at what point maybe did it change, and did that actually predate zoning as well? And that's where I'm a little bit confused, but is a transfer facility considered a continuation of a use that certainly predated the zoning, or is it, is there some question there?
And
But
I
your
think it
point is
would be
very
then.
well taken. The notion that this needs to be established clearly as a pre-existing non-conforming use is paramount to any decision this
Right.
board makes. So if that makes sense, and you
Yes.
bring up a good point. So I think we'll wanna confirm that. There were a lot of other issues that were brought up. Do you guys, wanna hear from do we wanna hear from the rest of the audience first, or do you wanna address specific things? I know there's some people here that have been waiting to
Yeah, we
speak.
usually do that.
Whichever you'd like to do. I have a list here and I can go through
Well,
them.
why
or-
don't we continue with the audience? I did wanna get this in because I know Les is here,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make sure we had his opinion on this before, he may not be here all night, so. And if there's anything else for which I want his opinion, I may tag him as we go. So if it's okay with you, I'd
Sure.
like to let the rest of the folks, say what they wanna say. If you'd like to stand up and introduce yourself, and your address, please.
Yeah, I'm Phil Ogren. I own the property at 223 East Main Street. I'd like to know if it's possible to get something in writing as to the hours of operation that they're required to work under now, because it's been very
That's
vague.
actually in the lease. I can answer that one pretty quickly, and if, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mello, but, 6:30 to 5, Monday through Thursday, is that right? And Friday through Sunday? Do you guys operate on Sunday?
Correct.
I think it's in the lease at 6:30 to 3. Is that correct? I don't know, I wrote that,
It
I
sounds
just.
correct, yes.
Thereabouts.
Yes.
So 6:30 to 5, Monday through Thursday, and 6:30 to 3, but that's not, all those hours aren't necessarily residents.
Correct.
That would be the commercial operation, and a subset of those hours are open to residential.
Correct.
The other thing that I'd like cleared up is to when Mello started their operation there, not when they managed it as a town dump, but when they actually started. I think the attorney said it was 71, and I believe it was 81, was it?
I didn't give a specific date. I said it was in the 70s, and we'll provide that information when we do our research
Okay.
that we're looking into, as to when it was managed and when it was ultimately taken over. But if it's managed, that counts as use as well.
Fair enough. I mean, in this packet, they're only providing the current lease, which was renegotiated last year, when that original lease started and when that operation started. Maybe you guys could review that and let us know.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Basoud, and I live at 144 East Main Street. I have a couple of things that I'd like to present, a couple of letters and a petition
Absolutely.
with some signatures. Just really reiterating what this gentleman said earlier. As a person who lives close to the dump and to the neighbors that we spoke to as well, the noise is already very loud. I don't know exactly how many feet away from the dump I am, but it's not close. I'm not a direct abutter. In the winter time, it's an eyesore. You can see the dump as it is. Having it get bigger and closer to the street is just gonna make it worse. The smell, you can already smell the dump, actually all throughout the year. It doesn't just have to be a hot day. The backup, when the trucks back up, that loud beeping sound has literally woken me up on a Sunday morning. Been there for 24 years. Over the period of time, it has gotten significantly worse. So we just have some overall concerns as to it being a small town. It is the entrance to our town, what we want to live like in our town. And an expansion of that site is not really appropriate for a small town. So,
Do you have something you want to
You said a
present?
petition?
I have a petition with multiple signatures, and I have a letter from,
Did you have a copy?
I have copies.
Would you like to read that? You don't need to read all the
Yeah.
names, but could you,
Can you read?
do you mind reading the
this?
position?
Not at all.
And then I'll take it. And
You've
then
got,
I'll just
if you've
need
got
a-
folks signing it, it'd be,
An extra copy.
and take your time. It's,
Okay. I have to do the town of Georgetown Board of Appeals.
okay, no, that's
So,
fine.
Reason opposition to grant G. Mello disposal court special permit. Dear Georgetown Zoning Board of Appeals, my wife and I, who reside at 4 Reynard Lane, Georgetown, Mass., oppose the expansion of G. Mello facility. The back of our property abuts 133. Over the past several years, we have noticed an increase in business at the facility. From early in the morning until they close, we can hear their daily operations. It is very loud and even wakes my family up in the morning. We hear all the activity over at G. Mello, including the tractors moving rubbish, loud bangs, and beeping noises when the tractor is backing up, which seems to have gotten louder. Also, when the leaves fall, when I look out my backyard, all I see is the dump. It is an eyesore. I am opposed to this because the plans have the dump expanding and expanding closer to 133. This will make the dump sounds even louder at my home, and there will be more traffic at the G. Mello site. Also, if the expansion brings their trash holders to a different location, will we smell the rubbish? I say that because depending on which way the wind is blowing, we can already smell the dump. I also think that the town of Georgetown has not done a good job informing the community about this proposed expansion. Many close neighbors around me have not received anything regarding the expansion. That includes my neighbor at 6 Reynard Lane, whose property abuts 133 like my home, and our houses are practically side by side. Maybe a notification should be sent to all residents in Georgetown. We wrote this letter because we are unable to attend the November 7th hearing. Robert C. Croce and Alyssa M. Croce are opposed to the expansion and our signatures are below. Then I have a petition, opposition to grant G. Mello disposal court special permit. This petition seeks to prohibit the Zoning Board of Appeals of Georgetown to allow the expansion of G. Mello disposal court. As it stands, the G. Mello facility is already close enough to the road where it is very visible during the winter from a large number of residential areas. The smell, loud sounds, and heavy traffic, which all results from this facility, making living in nearby areas uncomfortable. This is a small town, and to allow a large disposal company to become even larger, degrading the value of all nearby residences is unacceptable. And there's multiple signatures.
Great.
Can I just grab a copy of each?
I have copies, yes. Those are the originals.
Okay, and then I just need another copy.
You need another copy, not a problem.
Thank you, Lisa.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
See those?
Yeah.
How many,
Uh,
not numbered?
Yep. As far as you guys are concerned, has it gotten worse? Has it gotten louder? Has it gotten dirtier? In other words, I guess, has your business been expanding over the past 15 years in such a way that people would notice that it is actually having a bigger impact on them?
It's grown, but I don't think it's gotten louder. The backup alarms are by law. Any heavy equipment has to have a backup alarm. Naturally, when the leaves fall, that sound is gonna travel a little bit further.
And when you say you've grown, by how much? And because I'm thinking that, I understand what you're saying, I totally understand that type of noise. What they're suggesting is, it's the quantity of everything. So, in the past 10 years, have you gone from 30 to 60 tons?
No, I don't think we've substantially increased over the last 10 years. We've been close between the 40 and 50 ton range per day for quite some time.
And do you shut off when you hit 50 tons? You got your scale on there, and you've got residents coming in, dropping off.
Generally
How do you
don't
keep
go
track
over
of
the
that?
50.
How do you know? I'm just curious, like, you know.
Based on what's coming over the scale, for the most
So,
part.
but the residential drop off is not considered part of that, is that it? Because they're not hitting the scale.
We have to take that into account.
Okay.
That's why it's dumped separately off to the side, and then we bring that over the scale as well before we dump it into the building.
Oh, I see. So you take the you just bring it over on a daily
Correct.
basis and you weigh it. Okay, fair enough. All right. So if you hit on the scale, if you're at 58 tons on I don't know what day of the week is the busiest. Do you shut the doors and
That's
say?
why the state gives us the no more than 60 ton, because there's so many residents coming in, they give us some leeway on that.
Okay.
So we used
So
to
it's
be
50 to
strictly at
60.
50 ton, and they took that into consideration. And
Have you ever had to stop for the day? Because
No.
you've never in history you've never had to stop operation due to an exceeding. And that's it's just a daily cap, or is it a annual cap as well, or?
Yes,
Both.
it's annual.
Okay.
It's
It's
daily,
both.
it's a maximum day, it's a average daily, max daily, annual.
And is the annual cap the sum
It's
of?
based on
60
50,
tons
no, it's based on 50 ton a day times the, you know,
365?
whatever the number of operating days are.
they have it listed as 363, but
Okay, so it's,
So it's like
All right.
2 holidays or something.
and you've never exceeded that in all, you've never exceeded your DEP permit, I assume?
not to my knowledge, no.
And is the DEP saying they want you to be able to have the capacity for 300 tons per day, or is that what you want? You want 300 tons per day?
That's what we came up with based on the traffic study and what the property could withstand.
Are you currently taking trash from out of town? In
Yes.
Quantity?
Yes. Quantity? No. The residents from Rowley come in, Byfield. come
Just
in.
residential, right now,
And then there's contractors that come in.
contractors?
Yes.
But with the expansion, if granted at 300 tons, how will that grow your business? Is that gonna be, other facilities who do roll-offs per se? They're gonna use that as a transfer station similar to like what they do in, I believe the other one's in North Andover?
North Andover,
Side?
there's an incinerator and a transfer station. So our facility, for the most part, the only quote-unquote trash or MSW that comes in is from residential drop-off. The majority of the material that comes into our facility is either bulky waste, which is furniture, couches, mattresses, and construction material. That material doesn't have an odor, and that's what we would most likely increase by, because it would be contractors and roll-offs.
So it would be other roll-offs.
But not, we don't bring in, per se, truckloads of household trash. Like, you know, the
Yeah, I know
stuff
what
that's picked up on
what
the
I saw
street.
in containers, I understand.
Can you
But
just clarify what a roll-off is for me?
a dumpster that's on.
Roll-off would
the
be a
roof.
dumpster like a homeowner would rent if they're doing a clean out at their house. They
So
range
I
in
would rent
sizes.
a dumpster and then somebody would truck it and roll
Yeah,
off.
there's wheels on the bottom.
Yeah,
Rolls
yeah.
right off the truck, sits in your driveway. If you're doing your kitchen renovation, you take all the things you wanna throw out the
Okay.
window into the dumpster.
Yep.
They come, pick it up,
Yep.
take it away,
Okay.
and see you later.
And that's what you're saying is mostly what the increase would be is a
Correct.
roll-off. Okay.
And that's the majority of what you're taking in now.
Correct.
Construction waste.
Question.
Yes.
Two
If you
questions.
don't worry.
If you don't mind.
Absolutely.
You're on, you ready?
Dave, are you, I have one more audience member, so we'll finish your point, and then I know we have a bunch more questions, and I'm
Let
gonna.
him go first.
Are you sure?
Yep, he's,
Okay.
yep.
Well, Patty just stepped aside for a second, so why don't you go
Okay.
ahead, cause then she's gonna wanna get you into the record.
Over here,
Yes.
where the road is, I'm assuming coming in like this, right? Right around here somewhere? Along this road, I'm assuming there are regular oak trees and whatnot. I can't recall because I didn't pay attention to the trees. And you mentioned that the leaves fall off the trees and then obviously becomes louder. I know Renard and Pillsbury are somewhere over in this vicinity here. So what measures within your plan do you have, if any, to kind of potentially mitigate any of that? I mean, I get where you're coming from, and, you know, at the end of the day, if you need to build a new building to meet DEP regulations, I don't think that the need for a transfer station doesn't exist in town. I think there's a definite need for that, right? The question becomes, if you get through all these, over these hurdles and through the hoops, how do you satisfy the residents who have to live with whatever position is taken?
So by fully enclosing the building,
Yeah.
it will be more visually appealing.
What is the building gonna be made out of theoretically?
It's gonna be a pre-engineered steel building.
Okay.
The doors will be on
This
that,
this side.
that side.
Okay.
So driving by from the street, you're gonna see the back of a building. You're no longer going to see exposed trash. The property will stay cleaner, there won't be debris blowing around. The odors, we generally take in construction, the odor is very minimal. We agreed with the Board of Health to put in an odor suppression system. The noise, trucks are gonna be dumping inside the building, are gonna get loaded inside the building. By enclosing it, I think it should address the majority of the concerns.
Again, as opposed to the current operation,
Right.
where.
Which has to change no matter what.
Well, but it's also, no, I'm saying as far as noise generation, I mean, the current
Yeah.
operation takes place
Out in the
pretty
wide
much
open.
outside, you know, so the equipment that are used to, move the waste material, to segregate it, to load into the trailers, that equipment now is gonna be inside an enclosed building.
You do have in your package the elevation drawings of the buildings, the building, I should say.
Why don't we, continue with the audience, if you don't mind? Sorry to keep you waiting.
For the thing, there are 24 signatures on this.
Okay, that was,
Yes,
I
please.
didn't get you, it was Lisa, right? Thank you. That was the petition that Lisa submitted.
Great, thank you very much.
I'm informal tonight. I got first names. I didn't catch everybody's last names, so I apologize.
And you and I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for your wait. Thanks.
Dan Walsh, I'm at 202 East Main Street. I just wanted to second some of the comments made before. Primarily, now, there was a dump there when I moved in, so I can't gripe and tell them to remove it. But the traffic there is crazy. The large trucks cannot take the corner coming out of there, going towards the highway, without stopping traffic in both directions. I don't know how it's possible to increase the volume of this place sixfold and not have a large impact on the immediate infrastructure out front there. I mean, it's bad enough with the people going in and out there. Something would have to be done with the traffic. But even before you get to the traffic issue, is this the right thing for a small little town? I was surprised that I learned that, trash from anywhere is coming in there. It's not just Georgetown, it's anyone that shows up, $3 a bag, $2 a little bag, or by weight. Everybody gets charged the same rate. So one thing I was confused with, why can someone drive their trash from another town, come into our town and pay the same rate that a resident pays? That doesn't seem right to me. It is on the main road into town. It's on 133, high traffic area. It's just not the best place to have a transfer station. I mean, it is where it is, but increasing the size of it is going to bring more business. People are having a harder and harder time out there trying to find a place to throw construction trash. They're gonna travel further and further, right? This is gonna be the spot to come. Do we wanna do that right there on that street? If it was off somewhere else on a dead-end street someplace, like Newburyport, with the dumps at the end of a dead-end road out in the middle of nowhere, that's a little different. But because of where it is, increasing the capacity, I just don't think is the right thing for that area. Cleaning it up, making it more efficient, certainly, but that type of expansion and capability with the volume coming in there is gonna bring that kind of volume there. And like this gentleman said, we better plan on the 300 as far as the town goes, if that's what you really wanna do. But is that really in the town's best interest for our size town?
Fair enough.
My point.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Hi.
Good evening. I'm John Burney. I live at 6 Raynard Lane, and my back property is along East Main Street at about 200 feet, I'd say. And the position of the new building is going to be in clear sight, probably a few hundred feet away. I'm not considered in a butter. I'm actually surprised, but I agree with everything that other people are saying, all the concerns. But there's one point I really, really, really want to stress is the amount of noise that comes out of there. The rubber-tired backhoe, the warning beacon that comes out of that thing is so annoying, quite frankly. And it starts usually at 6 o'clock, sometimes a little earlier, maybe a little bit later. It's all week, maybe not Tuesday. I don't know if they're closed on Tuesday, but that's the number one complaint I have to make. And if there's anything that in the plans that could reduce that noise, it would be greatly appreciated. I think maybe enclosing it would help with that, but keeping the lean-to there, that's where all the noise is coming from, is that tractor is in reverse 50% of the time. It's the way it's processed, it's the way the material is moved, scooped out, backed up, the dumpster, on and on. And it goes on all day, and it's extremely annoying, extremely annoying. So when they start up those trucks, you're waking up that morning. And I think it's gotten worse. I've been there for 24 years. And recently, it just seems like it's gotten worse. I know it's the time of year, the leaves are gone, but if there's anything you can do to curtail that noise, it would be very appreciated. Thank you.
Fair enough, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, one more time, and then we're gonna move on, you guys, we'll
Yeah.
recircle back to audience at later in
Not
the
only
hearing
the
as well.
loader
so-
that has backup alarms, it's some of the dump trucks that have them too. I don't know where the cutoff is, but I'm thinking it's 10,000 pounds, but I'm not certain of that.
You're talking about the vehicles that are coming in to
All the
unload.
vehicles that are coming, a lot of the vehicles that are coming in have backup alarms, so.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Patty, what time do we need to extend past, what hour?
Yeah,
Is it
10 o'clock we
10?
will.
All right, well, we're not there yet, thank God. All right. Well, the board had some questions. I think, quite honestly, most of the questions and concerns are gonna focus on the use issue. We've identified a couple of things that are gonna need maybe some additional information already, one of which is the pre-existing non-conforming issue. I think the floodplain issue is something that I need to look at a little more closely, because I didn't quite catch all that, and there's some nuances there, and I might need to, personally, and you guys
I'd like to review those plans.
I'm just jumping in here, and you guys can agree, disagree, add to, whatever you like. But I need to understand a little bit better of what the history is on that floodplain before I can understand whether or not that permit is something that is required, or whether it is even subject to floodplain. So I'm not prepared to dive into any more details on that tonight, because I need to sort of digest what we have, if that makes sense. That kind of came out of the blue. So it makes sense to me. I'd like to continue discussing, the proposed use and addressing some of these concerns. These folks are here. We're here. I think people share a lot of these concerns. So, and I think the board members, you've already started, you got some specific questions for them about the use. I think it's appropriate to start talking about that first,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
One thing I'd like to throw out is we did have a traffic study done. We have a traffic consultant, Bayside Engineering, and we've heard a lot of concerns with regard to traffic. And I think what might be appropriate is to have our traffic consultant come to your meeting, and be here to answer questions, and we can submit the traffic report in advance.
Yeah, I
And
didn't see that in here.
It
says
was not,
done.
it was done, and Rick included a summary of that in the project narrative that he did. But I think it probably makes sense, since traffic is of a concern, that we have the traffic consultant here.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Can I respond to that
Yeah,
briefly?
one technical point though, yes, hold that thought. It's because in your summary, it indicated that there were requests from the town of Georgetown to do some additional monitoring. And I wasn't clear if that was through the Board of Health.
It was through the Board of Health.
So through your Board of Health permit, they're the ones, did they require that study?
Yes.
As part of what they were reviewing?
Yes.
And I wanna hold you up, Paul, but could
Because
you
they-
describe a little bit, and it's just for the benefit of the folks in the audience too, what that Board of Health, because that came up with, as a concern. What did
traffic-
that permit require you to do, and what was the result of that?
So the traffic counts in the traffic study were done in January 2017. When we went before the Board of Health, the Board of Health felt that the summer traffic volumes would be higher, and that we should measure traffic counts during the summer months. So additional traffic counts were done on East Main Street and the site access road in July of 2017.
So that's overall traffic flowing on 133 as well as into and
And
out
the
of the site.
site.
Okay.
So, 2 studies were completed, both in January.
Yes.
Two data collection.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And I'm not a traffic engineer, but I mean, they do seasonal adjustments based, from the January counts. He can do seasonal adjustments and come up with his overall traffic counts. Same thing that he did in July. So he did a memorandum or a memo to his traffic study based on the July 2017 counts, and the Reader's Digest version is it didn't change the conclusions of the original traffic study, and that the traffic counts were not significantly different, you know.
You're talking between summer and January,
Yes.
not necessarily before and after the expansion, it's.
Yeah, between, the actual traffic counts that were conducted in January did not differ very much from the counts that were conducted in July. And the net result was that it didn't change the conclusions of the original traffic study.
Over what period of time were those conducted? A week, a month?
No, they usually, it's a couple of days, they do weekdays and weekends, so.
Yeah, right.
So it's usually done over a couple of days. And they do both automatic and manual counts.
And that study is something that you did as part of the permitting process through the Board of Health?
Through the Board of Health.
Okay, and for everybody's benefit, do you mind briefly explaining what that permitting process is for? And what does the Board of Health review? If
We
you can do it
have-
in the,
yes, no, no,
again,
fine.
the abridged version, just so that
So-
people know what other boards have already kind of looked at here.
So, solid waste facilities that are regulated under 310 CMR 19, the solid waste management regulations, are required to have site assignment. So, site assignment was issued for a portion of this site, approximately 2 acres, in 1981. In DEP solid waste regulations, there's a requirement that if you seek a tonnage increase, it is a tonnage increase is considered a minor modification to site assignment. So we had to submit a permit application for a modification of our site assignment, even though the site assignment, I don't believe it even stipulates any tonnages, but because we were going for a permitting increase, we had to request a modification of the site assignment from the current permitted capacity of 50 tons a day to the requested permitted capacity of 300 tons a day.
Site assignment being through the state.
It's through the Board of Health.
Oh, through the Board of Health, okay.
But it's state regulations require, and then there's another category called the major modification of site assignment, which goes to the state and the town.
Okay.
But a minor mod, you can just deal with the Board of Health.
How do they delineate the difference between a minor site modification, increasing sixfold, and adding another building versus a major? What would be considered a major? I think planning was on the fence about whether or not you may need the major.
That's major project.
No, that's,
review.
that's,
It's a different
that's
thing.
in the,
That's in
for
the
the planning
zoning bylaw.
board, yeah.
Right.
But again, the DEP regulations stipulate what is a minor mod and what's a major mod. Major mod is generally an expansion of the site assigned area. So if we were going from 2 acres to 6 acres or 4 acres, that's a major
You
modification
don't
of,
take into account the facilities, an additional facility, a building,
no.
and they don't measure it by how much you're gonna increase potential.
The increase in tonnage is a minor modification.
No matter
So,
what the increase is, if it was 100 times, it would still be,
well, prior to going to the Board of Health, to go back, because we were requesting an increase in the permitted capacity of the facility, we also had to file an environmental notification form to the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And we received a MEPA certificate. And MEPA looks at those, the bigger issues, as far as the building, the building, the tonnage increase, they look at the noise, stormwater, all that. So that permit was actually, there was actually a MEPA filing that was done. A certificate was granted prior to us even going to the Board of Health. And we couldn't go to the Board of Health to do the minor modification without completing the MEPA process.
Fair enough. So then the Board of Health review, sorry. So then the Board of Health reviewed basically the same project.
Yes.
Essentially. And what specifically do they look at as part of their review? You're looking at the increase in tonnage. They're not looking at traffic. I don't know. Well, you
They
can
did.
tell me. Why
No,
don't
they
you-
did.
Oh, obviously they do, because they
Yeah.
required the study. So could you just briefly explain, or is it, if we don't need to get into too much detail, I guess, but.
No, but we provided them with information on the operation of the facility, you know, from the delineation of this is the existing operating characteristics of the facility, this is what's proposed, these are the mitigation measures that we're proposing. We provided the traffic study.
And the MEPA approval.
And, yeah, we gave them a copy of their site assignment, we gave them a copy of the authorization, the current authorization to operate, a copy of the MEPA certificate. Again, they couldn't move forward without us going through the MEPA approval.
I mean, because their decision is literally like one sentence, so it's a little hard to understand, you know, how they came up with this conclusion. I'm just trying to, again, for everybody's benefit, understand the depth
And pretty
of
much
their
the
review.
same information that MEPA looked at is what the Board of Health looked at.
Okay.
I asked the Board of Health for, I didn't even know there was a hearing until I got those letters from the two butters, and I asked her for the decision, and that's what she
Sure, okay. You had a question that I interrupted you about 10
10
minutes ago.
Traffic study or no traffic study, it's clearly a problem on the weekends. It's just too much traffic. People parked on the side of the road trying to get in. So there's obviously you guys are trying to address getting that flow to move to get off the road. So I'm just a little bit, what would happen if you were not able to expand at 300 ton? Do you still intend on addressing the traffic issue that is currently there?
So, one thing that I have been very upfront with every board so far is I'm not looking for an increase on the weekends. The tonnage increase is for Monday through Friday. On the weekends, there's enough cars coming in that I wouldn't want to increase the tonnage. So even if it was written that Saturdays and Sundays does not change, I'm fine with that, because I know the traffic is an issue on weekends. But by moving the residential drop-off area and being able to create a better traffic flow, it will help immensely the traffic concerns, especially on weekends.
What would happen if this board didn't approve the increase in tonnage? What's plan B for you guys? In other words, do you still have to build another building?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's going to alleviate this congestion on 133 during the weekends?
Yes.
Automatically, that is.
By moving the residential drop-off area is what's gonna alleviate the majority of
Right.
the traffic concerns.
And are you, weekends, it's still probably a high percentage of commercial trash coming in, not residential, I'm assuming.
No, it's primarily residential.
Is it?
Yes, and that's the biggest issue, is there's so many cars with one bag coming in.
Yep,
And it takes a lot of time and in congestion.
yep, okay.
How are you going to control? So if you're suggesting, if I'm understanding, that you might limit the tonnage on the weekends as opposed to the week, how do you even control who comes in when?
I can dictate, commercial customers can't come in on weekends, basically. I could term it that way.
So you'd know my pickup truck is not commercial, but his is, or Dave's is. I don't get it. Like I bring in,
That's a good
I
point.
restore my house,
Right.
so I have just as much sheetrock that I'm getting rid of as the next guy. But I'm not a roofer. We're social workers and
The local contractor
administrators.
coming in on a Saturday, is
Yeah.
that commercial or is
The
that
s-
residential? or
Small
how do you-
contractors are a different story. The tonnage increase would come from roll-off containers.
I
We
see.
don't bring the trucks in now on the weekends, and I would not bring the trucks in.
So
on
it's really the roll-offs. That's how you control it. Is
Right,
based on
because
roll-off. Got
The way the
it.
traffic study was done, we looked at different tonnage limits and what we could withstand.
Got it.
And
Okay.
we tried to figure out how we were going to be affecting the traffic by having that increased tonnage. And we based that off of the average weight per vehicle that's going to be coming in, with the tonnage increase being roll-off trucks primarily. And it increased the traffic such a small percentage that it was not substantial enough to create an effect.
Do you currently take roll-offs from other companies, or
No.
just your own?
Yes, in very little of my own. Most of my own go elsewhere.
Where do they go?
Salem, New Hampshire, Epping, New Hampshire,
Now,
North Andover.
we talked briefly, North Andover, you said they're a transfer facility and they have
There's
an.
two different facilities. There's a incinerator,
Yeah,
but there's also a transfer facility on the same street. Two different companies.
okay. Now, what's their tonnage?
The burn plan, I believe, is
Probably 1,500 ton a day.
1,500 ton a day.
Right.
And that transfer station, TBI,
6,750.
it's
Is that
high.
Andover you're talking?
Yes.
Wait, 15.
Where are they located in town?
They're on Holt Road right off of 125. They're right, kind of almost on, near the old Lucent building.
The old Lucent building? So I've been
Near
a
there.
thousand, by there 1,000 times, I've never seen them.
Well, I know,
I know that used to be.
Right behind the Lawrence Airport.
I know, I know.
Relative to the, I'm on board with you on the weekends. You're gonna have the same residential traffic, right?
Mhm.
And theoretically speaking, you're saying this design will mitigate a large portion of that traffic, right? Great, because I wandered off 133 just as everybody else and you do, right? So that's all
Absolutely.
wonderful. During the week,
Yes.
you have these roll-offs coming in.
Mhm.
A couple of these people brought up accidents. What can you do, if anything, to modify or make any changes to the way those trucks enter and exit to prevent them from having to make that, half moon turn into the second lane that's coming the other way? And maybe the answer is, you know what, I can't do anything, and that's fine. I just want, if there is something, and that's part of the plan, then I'd like to know that now, and say, okay, well, maybe that's a benefit as well, or maybe no, it's not, and it's not gonna change.
There isn't a change to the entrance
Okay.
proposed right now. I will say, I know there's a traffic concern on 133, there can be traffic concern. In regards to accidents, there's been 2 reportable accidents in 7 years.
Oh, I get it, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it's been brought up, so.
Right, oh, absolutely, I just wanna make
You know.
sure you're,
And that's a good question for our traffic consultant to look at, and we'll ask him to look at that if there's something that can be done to address the concerns that we're hearing as far, what I'm hearing, I think, is the swing of the trucks coming in and that.
Don
Yes.
brought it up.
Right.
You brought it up.
Yep.
Several others brought it up.
There may not be anything we can do because of the configuration of the street and the curb cut, but maybe there is.
Right.
So, that's a specific question we can ask our traffic consultant to look at.
Okay, and then relative to, and maybe you have this information, maybe you don't, on a weekend, say a Saturday, how many cars are going through there and pickup trucks and whatnot? Cause I've been through there and I mean, it's busy and sometimes I try to plan it so I don't have to.
what was, I didn't bring the traffic stuff.
I may have.
Yeah, we have I have the traffic. Existing.
Sorry, Dave, you were talking about the ratio of cars versus,
Well, at any given time, right, if during the day, 100 cars go through, right?
talking about like mostly residential.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on a
yeah,
Saturday,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
not having
yeah.
roll-offs go through, so we're gonna have 100 cars going through here. They're gonna pull in over here, and let's say every truck is 15 feet long, or 10, 12, whatever the footage is, right?
Not the same
How
thing.
many cars
I
now
don't
fit
have
here
the
to here,
data,
what's
he's
the
got the
backup?
data. I
By
didn't,
creating this
I
loop,
didn't do the
how
whole
many more
appendix.
cars get off the road? If the backup on 133 is 10 cars, and you alleviate that problem, then you can kinda get a conceptual idea if that works or not.
So they're still exiting.
And that was actually part of the
Correct.
study, I
They
assume.
are,
but they're off
The impact of
133
the
exit.
change is gonna
Yeah, there won't
have
be-
on the
there won't
traffic,
be
right?
back-
I
Yes.
assume
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
impact, you will be surprised at how little it is. But
They
I
took
think
into
that,
consideration the new design, is
Yes.
that
Correct.
Okay, all right, so we
Yes.
haven't seen any of that yet, but.
that's right. That's why I think the traffic consultant should come and present that to you because he did all of the counts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that will tell you the count, on 133 is 21,000 vehicles a day. And he can tell you exactly what was coming into the site. And then the percentage increase, which is like under 0.1%, going forward in what we're proposing to do. So I think it makes sense for him to present that to you so that you can ask him specific questions about when he counted, how he counted, all of that kind of information he can present to you.
Yeah, because he can give you
Right.
morning, evening, weekend, peak hour rates, for, because there's a different peak hour, there's a different peak hour for 133 and as opposed to our site
You see where
driveway.
I'm going. with this,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we can show that, all right, by doing this, and let's say, throw it on the table, 300 tons is not acceptable, and you have to do half that, right? Is that feasible, and does that then cure a problem? I don't know. I'm not at that level yet, but what I would love to know is, by making this design real, what happens to the traffic on 133? Are they not in front of Don's driveway? Don would love them not to be in front. I'm sure if he doesn't want them in front of his driveway. I don't blame him. Whatever. But how many cars, by math, do you get into the loop? And yes, you do have the delay coming out, but you have that delay now, and you have a traffic problem on the side of the road. So I just want to know, for my own edification, how many cars now go in and then through the loop, and what does that do?
Right.
You know, it's good information.
Yes. And we have that.
Another thing.
Sure, go ahead.
If the traffic study company is gonna be spending time doing some more work, you might as well have them put what would happen if there was a, say, 50% increase in the volume of, vehicles going in and out of there.
During the week or the weekend?
Doesn't matter, just
Well-
in general.
Okay, I would agree.
I wanna make sure they've encompassed, the 300 tons.
Right.
Right.
So
That-
Whether or not
that's-
you're gonna get there,
Yeah, no,
if we got to 300 ton, it would increase traffic by 62 vehicles per day during the week.
Yeah, well.
So over the course of a day, it was, when the road sees 21,000, it was less than 0.1%.
Right.
But I gotta tell you, I mean, from a layman's perspective, again, we're all residents here. And I get stuck behind trucks trying to make that left-hand turn going in from the highway, and in the mornings, traffic's a mess. School drop-off, pickup times, I mean, they'll sit there and it'll back up really far with one truck. From a layman's perspective, and a lot of concern in town, and I'm sure is, why would we want to expand that at all? I guess, why would the town want to increase from our perspective? And I speak for the town here. I understand from your perspective where you're headed with permitting and everything else. Site upgrades, great. I'm sure there's a lot of mitigation measures we can talk about to address some of these other things that are occurring on site. And there absolutely is concerns about noise and odor and all these other things. Being in building is one thing. Maybe there's other mitigation measures that could be proposed that would really not limit the increased detriment, but actually improve it so that, but I can't get over the increase and why in the world would the town of Georgetown want to allow this use to expand sixfold? I'm missing something. That's why I wanted to hear from you regarding, where's the selectmen on this? Is this something that really somehow benefits the town financially? Is this, how are the residents of the town gonna be compensated? Not just the abutters, but everybody in town that's gonna have to, deal with all this additional truck traffic coming and going and back up. It's real, and I'm not, again, nothing against your company. I've called
I
the
understand
company
where
many
you're coming
times.
from.
Great service.
Thank
Wonderful. You do a great job, really. But I don't know. I'm kind of laying my cards on the table a little early here because this could go on for a long time. We could talk about a lot of details. But as far as the use expansion, you guys are a long way from convincing me that as a resident of the town, I would be for this. This is something that, hey, this is good for the community. I don't think the town of Georgetown is growing to the extent that we as residents need a tremendous increase in our trash disposal capacity. I think, what's going on there limits us. This is clearly all gonna be commercial bump over the years, whether it happens tomorrow or 10 years from now. And I'm going, people have asked me, what's in it for us? I don't know. I've talked to the town administrator, I've talked to selectmen, I've talked to planning, I've talked to everyone. I said, what am I missing here? So, anyway, that's my little spiel, but I mean, to get to that point, I don't know what you guys
Yeah, I
think.
mean, if
I'm-
you've never gone over
I don't get it.
60 in the history of operations, you've never gone over 60 in one day. That was
I
your
can't
record.
say
But
over
that-
the history,
That's your
but-
your gut. Why 60 or 50 to 300? I'm just trying to help me get there. And was the causal relationship between that decision, the study, till we need 300, or was it we want 300? Does the traffic study support?
The traffic study
Utility.
actually supported up to 500. He looked at different scenarios, and we settled on 300 based on the size of building that is feasible to put on that property and what we thought the property could withstand without going too far. And the 300 ton, from a financial standpoint, one, helps build the building, yes, but it gives much more leeway to operate.
But the traffic study, you know, there's already a problem on 133. There's a problem there. It may not be huge, but there is a problem with the traffic now. Any increase in capacity, and only, layman's perspective, it's only gonna get worse. And there is no change on this plan. I understand you wanna bring some vehicles in. I get it. The residential, the capacity of the site will increase the ability to hold more residential. That might actually pull some cars off the street waiting. And I get all that.
Mhm.
But from a commercial standpoint, I don't see any change here. And I can only envision trucks coming from all different angles now, through town perhaps, from, wherever they're coming from, particularly on 133, but could be coming up 97, every which way, because, you may market the thing more. I don't know. If you have the capacity to be allowed more use, you're obviously gonna try to take advantage of it. Any good businessman would, right? I mean, so it's gonna happen, and there isn't any change proposed to 133, obviously. You can't.
Right.
It's a state road.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah, the vehicular entrance, the whole entrance into the site could be rearranged, so it's like a 4-laner.
A left-hand turn lane or something, but that just,
Yeah.
it's not there, and it's never gonna be part of your proposal. I don't.
Well,
I
it
don't- I
could
don't know
be,
if it but-
they might have to, I mean, it's all town property, right up to 133,
road.
but, yeah, the problem, the jam is right there where everyone's coming and going, and you just gotta find ways to widen that and do it discreetly, so it doesn't look like an even bigger facility that's down in there, but that would be the only way to do that.
Add a resident-only access road, or I'm awfully intrigued with the idea of rethinking capacity, and if it's about bringing enough income in to cover the cost, which I totally get, maybe reducing the overall tonnage, but increasing the non-resident fees. Like, maybe there's other ways to think outside of the box, so we can try and think about, does it need to be 300, whatever it was, 300,000? Could it be 100?
300 ton. Yeah.
Sorry, 300 ton, could it be 150? But in order for you to make the math work, it's the people from Raleigh and wherever else in the commercials that increase their fees. I mean, how we can get to compromise that makes it work for everybody, because I use your
You had another
facility.
comment, and I know you might wanna address that, so go
As
ahead.
far as I'm concerned, there's a traffic backup there every single day from 2 o'clock on.
Well, part
It
of that's
goes-
school.
Yeah,
It goes from Georgetown Center beyond Tenny Street, every single day.
in fairness, I was there just the other day, I don't know, twice. Once around 3:15, 3:30, picking up the kids at school, and once later on after I dropped them off where they need to be and went back to do some more inspections, because that's what I do. I drive around a lot. Historically, since I've lived here, the traffic on 133 is dreadful, and more so during September to late May, early June, late June, depending on, the high school kind of alleviates a little bit, and as time goes on, it gets less and less. So I completely agree with you. My comments to you based on the entryway,
Mhm.
I'm trying to conceptualize this, because like Jeff, I'm pro-business, it's, what I do, it's how I am, but 300 tons is an enormous amount of trash compared to 50 or 60, and what I try to do when I sit here is listen to the people in the community and say, okay, well, you know, he can see your place from his street, and he's next door, and they're next door, and what is the overwhelming concerns I've heard that all folks have kind of mentioned was smell, noise, and traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, you're telling me if you enclose this thing that the smells kind of dissipate and the noise will dissipate. Good. There's two potential solutions that I think everybody in this room would like greatly, right?
Mhm.
Less noise, less smell. 2 for 3 so far. The traffic, I think, is going to be hard. I mean, I do think the residential component might help and get some road traffic freed up.
Mm-hmm.
But during the week, I mean, I deal in construction all the time. I'm on construction sites. The roll-offs are, you know, some are shorter, some are longer. You got a big truck rolling in. To Dave's point, if you can get them in there and get them cycled through, that's fine, but they still have to pull out. And while there was only 2 accidents, that's the current level. So times that by your increased tonnage, your increased traffic, and you do the, you know, I can do the math. I'm not gonna, you know, say it can't be done. So you factor it out, and maybe it's 5 accidents. And where's the threshold? 2 might be too many.
But in fairness to Mello, it's
I'm-
the traffic
listen,
issues are not.
I'm a
Mello's
huge Mellow
alone.
fan. They pick up my
No, no,
trash
but what I'm
this
saying
morning. They
is
did a great job. They
the
even leave my buckets
traffic-
right in a nice little pile.
Wait a second.
It's
The
great.
traffic issues are town-wide.
Yes, they are.
There's 20,000 cars coming through this town.
Correct.
That is not all Mellow.
I'm not saying it is,
It's
but
like a microcosm.
It
And
is.
we need to acknowledge that and fix that as a town.
I'm not saying we don't, but my point is, Jason is a good businessman. He would like to increase his business. Kudos to him. But by doing so, we exasperate the already horrible traffic situation that the town has created based on the state road. I'm not saying
Without the ability to mitigate it as part of this project, I
Thank
guess
you.
is what
But
we're
we
getting.
can't dump it all in Mello to fix.
I'm not saying I am.
I
Well,
just-
why make it worse? I guess that's what I'm getting. Is it why
I'm not. Listen,
you got a problem there?
Maybe
Why
we're
would we
Gotta
want to
talk
make
to
it
the
worse?
traffic study.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
let's talk to the traffic study.
That's
yeah.
going to be key. But what I'm saying is
We
maybe
could
there's a
see,
maybe there's a happy medium.
we
here.
could see potentially with roll-off traffic, 30, 40, 30 yarders a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how many are you getting in there now?
Very few.
Right.
Yep.
So let's say that, that's gonna increase to what, tenfold
Mhm.
on the roll-offs? And that's part of the biggest problem that's concerning everybody too, is they can't make the turn.
The roll-offs can make the turn. The tractor trailers have a hard time making the turn. The
Some of
roll-offs
those-
can make the
the
turn.
roll-offs
Yes.
pulling a 30.
They're taking the
Trailers
trash
are coming
back
out. They're
The
coming
trailers
out.
are coming
Right.
out.
Do tractor trailers ever go in? Do you ever get tractor trailer loads of?
No.
I wouldn't
No.
think so, but I mean,
No.
roll-offs are the largest
Yes.
customer. I guess,
Yes.
Inbound.
And a 30-yard roll-off truck has no problem making the turn, coming out, taking a right.
Coming into,
Correct.
from the heading east.
Yes. Oh, heading east is a piece of cake.
Hmm?
Heading east to pull it, to take the right into
Yeah, the hard right.
facility? Yeah, that's not a problem
Hard
at all. Mm-hmm.
And western traffic.
Making that left coming in, I think is, and
Well,
maybe
that
coming out.
would slow traffic a little bit more.
And, but just to follow up on that
Alleviate
point
that.
that Dave's getting at, so that, on the exit vehicles, right now, they say it's 50, 60 tons, I don't know, how many
Mhm.
trucks is that? How many tons in a truck you get?
In
Like,
In the tractor trailer
Yeah,
that's leaving?
for the exit of the debris.
That's probably 3 tractor trailers.
All right, so multiply that times 6, and
Mhm.
you're looking at 9 to 10 truckloads a day, as opposed to 3 coming out. I mean, we see a problem already with some of these trucks doing that, and so, I mean, it's just, it's obvious that it's gonna increase, and it's a concern, and again, I go back to, the improvements are gotta get done regardless of, an increase in the use, and I get, financially, it's gonna help deal with some of these modifications that have to get done. But as a resident, I don't understand why we would want to allow the increase, so you need to kind of convince us that, or at least me, why would we want this for our town members? I just, what's in it for the town? Why is this desirable? Why is this increase desirable and necessary for the town of Georgetown? I understand clearly it's desirable and necessary for you. I mean, so,
Can I make
to
one
me,
comment?
the location is kind of lousy where it is, not that, it's just, it is where it is.
Right.
It's not ideal. If this weren't there and somebody was proposing to put it there, we wouldn't even be here. I mean, it would never be located where it is, in my opinion, because it's not a good location. It'd be great if we could move the whole thing someplace else, expand it there, and, you know, maybe it'd be better for everybody. I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but, anyway, so to make that worse, again, I keep going back to the same thing, but, so, yeah, go ahead.
When you mentioned the financial impact to the town prior, and that would be in the contract renegotiation with the selectmen.
Okay, but that hasn't been done.
Right, it can't be done until everything's approved.
So,
Because
I
if
mean,
there's no change-
you know,
if
you're
there's no
gonna
change,
increase it
there's no
to,
change in
what,
the
60
lease.
grand a year, okay, so what, for
Right.
20,000, you can keep it, and I'll not get stuck in I mean, I don't know, I mean, what's the number?
Mhm.
You know, if it's gonna go from 40,000 a year to 1 million, what's that do for the town? I don't know, I mean, what about the upgrades to the 133, is that even a possibility? A left-hand turn lane coming in off the highway, you know, but again, you go down that road, let's put it out by the highway someplace. The town's now owns land out there. Maybe that's a discussion that can take place to lease some land out there instead of renegotiating this lease and moving this whole thing out, you know, off of 95 somewhere. Would be, you know, maybe that's pie in the sky, but to me, I sit here and say, that'd be great. Maybe at some point, this gets capped and you know, this becomes the highway department's land to deal with, and you guys can do all your stuff a little, but that's not what's being presented tonight, but, again, I don't know, but.
We hear you. We hear your concerns. I've been taking lots of notes. We have specific issues that I think it makes sense for us to, number one, bring traffic consultant in. That's gotta happen. The benefit to the town, where we will bring back information for you on that, but really, the benefit to the town is going to be upgrading the facilities and putting things inside and fixing the internal circulation, and that all comes with a cost, and financially, it's gotta work or it's not gonna happen. So that's where is it 300, is it something less than that? But that's really like any business decision, it's gotta work financially or it's not gonna happen. But there are benefits.
Are you saying that if you don't get an expansion of the use, you're gonna shut down the facility
No,
because you're not gonna be able to
I
adhere to the
didn't
DEP
say that
regulations?
at all.
Well,
But
if it's not gonna happen, you're not gonna comply with your DEP requirements, which means you're not gonna close the building, which means you're gonna
It's
shut
gotta
down.
work financially. It's gotta work financially. So we have to present you with that information of why it works and why why in order to do what we're going to be mandated by DEP to do, to put things inside, and what it sounds like the residents want and what would be a benefit for the town to enclose this. It comes with a dollar figure.
Of course.
And how do we come to that? And at some point it doesn't work, but what point is that? And so that's the information I think that you're really asking for to justify the 300. That's, I think, what you're looking for. As well as the mitigation measures for the different things that we've heard, the odor and the noise and traffic. I've already spoken to the traffic consultant, and he can be present at your next meeting. If should you continue this to your December meeting, he is available for that. And we can submit the traffic information to you, obviously, in advance, and have him talk to that, and alert him to the concerns, not only just an increase in vehicle trips, but what can we do to address existing conditions that would be helpful.
Jeff, do we have an obligation, if we're gonna get that traffic study and have him here prior to post that in, at the building office or anywhere, or just? Do we need to make it available?
I can't hear you.
Do we need to make that traffic study available, or has it been made available for?
Once I
Well,
submit it, it's a public record.
Right, I think we'd like to
That's
see it
usually
before
a
the meeting to
planning-
Oh,
digest
that-
it a little bit, is that what you're
Yes.
getting at? Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
what, and that's what I
you
said,
have
we
it,
would,
so it won't-
we
it
would
won't take
submit
you a
it,
month
absolutely.
prior to the, yeah.
Exactly.
I will say it was included in the MIPA application that everyone has as well.
We
Okay.
haven't-
They don't have
Not
a
in this
meter
pack, it was,
application. They don't
Planning
have that.
board.
Okay.
well, it's town.
But we'll
hall,
see.
it's with-
How do you want how do you want the traffic study? You want it electronically?
We don't usually deal with the planning.
I'll give
usually.
you a hard copy and electronic.
Right.
It'll
I
be
mean,
both.
Isn't that supposed to go to planning?
It will go
It
to.
will end up
planning
going to planning.
Planning, and then we can get a copy from planning,
and
so we don't step on their
Uh,
toes.
No, I
Site
mean,
plan
they're not gonna go to site plan review, well, I had another question actually about the Water Resource District, and part of, going back, this comes to site plan review, because I'm not so sure we can make a decision on water resources until you've completed site plan review according to the bylaws. So that's a question, I have interpretation of the bylaws. So one of the conditions for granting a special permit for water resource is that after site plan review has been held by the boards as provided in 165-83, among other things, then we can provide decision on the water resource district. So
Well, that
I'm clear on
particular application, and I'll look at that and section of the bylaw, but you could certainly, if you approve everything else, you could hold that and table it essentially, go to site
That's why I
plan,
kind of
and then
was
come back.
focus on the bigger nut
It's-
first.
Well, it's all part and parcel of the
Yeah.
whole project, it's just how we get there, but we tried to give you everything that you'd need.
Planning is, generally, the planning board will, and it's certainly in a major project review or site plan approval, site plan review, would really dig into a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
And they will dig into, and the health department may or may not have looked at it with as fine a tooth comb as planning will. They're gonna probably hire a technical expert to review it all. I don't really wanna do that twice, I don't wanna make you have to do it twice, because if this thing comes in, it's override, we're gonna end up trying to get somebody to interpret it for us, and then you're gonna do a site plan, they might wanna do it all over again. But you've already done a study, I think it makes sense to submit that. It's not any additional work for you, it's just a matter of getting it to us.
Right.
Let us review it as soon as we can get it, which electronically, as far as I'm concerned, is fine, if that's okay with you, Patty. Everything goes through her.
Okay.
Give us a chance to take a look at what's in there.
Yep.
You may have, and if your consultant is here, I think it's also fair that, perhaps prior to the meeting, we can have questions of Patty, that may or may not happen, so that they can be prepared to answer
Sure.
some of those. But that may or may not happen. The other thing I wanted to make sure we cover is the pre-existing non-conforming
Mhm.
use issue.
Right.
I think that is a technical issue that has to be put to rest, right?
Right.
Is that
It's
something
10
we'll
minutes.
talk to Les about?
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot of research, this might take some legal
Well,
assistance from KP.
It may, but I think you probably have some.
I think
Exactly that you
we
could do.
can probably gather some historic information that perhaps Les didn't have when he was making his recommendation or his determination. We can provide it, and I can work with
Yeah, I
Les's
think it
office.
actually, Paul's point is great. If you could, I'll be copying on it through Patty, but if you could work with Les.
Yes.
You got a month here.
Yep.
If there's any issue and he needs KP Law to kind of get there, yeah, that makes sense.
Right, I can try to get an opinion.
You might,
And they can get an opinion
Sure.
from them, that would be helpful. That's gotta be put to rest.
Yeah.
And I appreciate, the comment. What else? Did you have something else?
We're gonna just we're gonna take a look at the floodplain issues a little bit closer with Les as well. I wanna look at those maps to verify what is the deal. Are we at 90 or 80 or 92 or?
82 or?
Just make that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I need to sit down.
I'd
We
like
all
to
need
be there
review it.
for that, okay?
Yep.
Is that right?
Likewise.
Yep.
Volunteer my time.
It's right in there. You can start.
Oh, all right. Well, I want a bigger plan. I wanna look at the big map.
It is
Yeah.
confusing. Those nuances are confusing.
Yeah.
Les, maybe we could do is, you've issued a denial and then a follow-up to that.
Yeah. Phase 3.
You and I had an offline earlier. It's actually one of the questions I had for him because I was confused on that issue myself. Not to make work for you, but maybe we could do a brief outline of those facts again for our digestion. I could sit with you or Paul or whatever, and then we'll just kind of distribute it to everybody to kind of lay it out one more time so we can review that. It's a few minutes to 10. Is there anything else you want to add at this point? I think we're looking at a continuation at a minimum.
Right.
just looking at the calendar, because you got Thanksgiving week, and I don't know, Les is, who's on vacation or,
Right.
December 5th is really, if you take out.
He's off work, so you have 2 or 3 days to review all
So
this stuff at
that's
home
next
over
week
Thanksgiving.
and that's next week and the week after Thanksgiving, if you don't count Thanksgiving, I don't know if you wanna maybe, because you're looking into
Well, our next meeting date is December 5th.
Or do you wanna go to January
We
9th?
may be looking at another
No.
major
You get the-
hearing that night as well, opening.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I'm, you know, it's fine. I just want you to be aware that, you know, there's something more going on that week. So, we're,
I say go for it on the fifth, let's see, let's
I
make some more
agree.
yeah,
progress.
and,
You got you got a 40B on the 5th.
right, well, I know, but
We'll continue that one too.
In all fairness, we need to move forward with what we've got. I
that's enough
hate
time.
postponing. We need to just keep moving. And the 5th is the next meeting. and
yeah,
they have
no, I
every week
agree.
to
If
do
there's,
that.
and you're gonna submit some stuff, we may have more
Yes.
questions, so. If for some reason we wanna go the extra month, can that be done offline, Patty, or no? We have to continue, how's that?
Well,
work?
you,
Special permit, it's just continued, isn't it?
But
Sure.
we're gonna continue it tonight, say to the 5th.
to the 5th, and then if it looks like we don't have the non-conforming issue buttoned up, or if you come back with other questions or something like that, and it looks like it makes sense to continue to January, that can be done simply with a letter from me to you,
Request, right.
and we don't need to show up. Butters can check with Patty in advance.
I think we would show up and
How's
we
that
would
gonna
vote
work?
to, without you
Well,
being
you would-
present, we would
correct,
vote to
you would.
continue it that night to the following
Right,
month.
you would be here anyway for
Something
your
were
other
to
hearing.
come up and you want to
Yeah, I
continue
mean,
for
if we
another month,
decided
yeah.
we'd
Right.
give them a little more time.
They're gonna be in for 7:30.
Right,
All right.
but if we continue to December 5th, then we're all set for December 5th.
All right, let's do that. That would be my suggestion. So do I hear a motion to continue this hearing until the evening of December 5th?
So moved.
Thank you. Sharon, anybody want a second?
Second.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Associate or whatever I am.
Oh, actually, that's true.
Probably
That's
not
not
allowed.
Dave.
Sorry.
I make a motion to continue this meeting until
Thinker.
December 5th,
I don't care.
2017.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second?
Okay, by Dave. Any discussion on that? We've already talked about the potential that that may move again, and we would vote at the next meeting to just give them another month.
Correct.
Anything else we need to talk about? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. All right, we'll see you on the 5th if we don't hear from you
Thank you.
before.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Jeff, good job.
I'm sorry.